All right. What's good, y'all? Uh, Still trying to, having some little sound issues. I hope you guys can hear me okay. I hope all is well with you. Happy New Year. Uh, Hope you guys had a memorable one, a good one, something that you enjoyed. As many of us were actually quite relaxed and didn't do a whole lot. But let's see. Let's get it going. So we are broadcasting today on innerlightradio.com, on Facebook, and of course on YouTube. So I hope everybody's well. See a few people already in the building. What's up, Jarvis? Joel, Brother Malika, always good to see you. Mr. Valentino, Brotherly Love, right? What's going on? Hope everybody is well. Let me see. Okay, my engineer is telling me the sound is good, so it must be on my end. All right. What's up, Brother Barry, Brother Kwame, or Brother Ron? All right. Well, you guys know what it is. It is the Onyx Report. And here at the Onyx Report, where we as Black male justice advocates uplift Black men and boys using critical analysis, we got another one for you. What's up, JJ, Harley, Ignace? Everybody's coming through. Again, make sure that you support the channel. But before I dive in, as usual, I want to give props and respect to my contributors, to my subscribers. So shout out to you. Here we go. Yeah, see, those are those little pesky sound issues. Yep, according to everything I'm looking at, all should be well, but it was not. So, not sure what is going on. These are the nice little surprises we get when we are broadcasting live and doing it ourselves. So y'all know what it is. This is it, Take a break from your computer for a little too long, and all hell break loose. All right. What's up, Hassani? Appreciate that shout out and support on Facebook, good brother. E. Taylor, Ron, good to have y'all in here. So y'all know the deal. Let me just put it up so you guys can see it. Again, our tagline here, uplifting Black men and boys is the point. It is our primary focus. It is what we are here to do. And in order for us to keep doing it, please make sure that you support the show. And you can do so by becoming a member on either patreon.com or here on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and click the join button, assuming you have already subscribed. If you haven't, please make sure you do that. And there are a variety of levels of membership you can engage in, support the channel, or as I said, you can go to patreon.com and either support the Onyx Report there with a monthly contribution or support the Institute for Black Male Studies. And so you can do both of those there. So the subscribers that I was just honoring a moment ago, even though the sound was messed up, are subscribers both on Patreon and here on YouTube. So that's what's up. All right. I see we got Kisses from Afar. What's going on? We got Typhoon. What's happening? We're not going to have a whole, too many preliminaries today. Not going to have too many. We are, man, that is not what was supposed to come up. So I apologize again. Still dealing with some technical issues. I thought I cleared them out, but anyway, it's here. All right. My bad. That was not exactly supposed to be the introductory screen, but again, technical problems are what they are. What's up, Muada? Good to see you in here. Always good to have you. All right, so y'all know this should have been a special shout out, but nevertheless, for those that do not know, this is Brother Max Julian, right, who famously played Goldie from the film The Mac, who passed away at 88 years old. You know, it says the actor, writer, producer. This is from TMZ. Said he passed away on January 1st due to undisclosed circumstances. This, according to his PR team, who says his wife discovered him early Saturday morning. In a statement, they say in part, during Julian's decades-long career, he was known for being bold, honest, and straightforward. He would live and speak his own truth both professionally and privately. He was thought of as a rare man among men. And this was released from comic book writer and film producer David F. Walker's social media post honoring him. Right? So I don't know if there's been an update on the cause of his death, but nevertheless, he has passed. Although for YouTube, this is appreciate that support, Brother Malika. Although for YouTube, that's probably old news. Still, it is something that needs to be shout out and acknowledged because time passes differently from the rest of the world. Whatever social media platform you are on, whatever one you are not on, time seems to pass very differently. So shout out to Max Julian for his contributions over time, and especially in the discourse of Black manhood, where he played a role. He knocked in a presence that we are still talking about decades later. So it definitely adds to the discussion. And I extend peace and blessings to the family, and rest in peace. Straight up. We're gonna dive in. Because this is a topic that kind of caught me off guard, but is nonetheless important. And it was something that I've never thought really a lot about. Good brother of mine, BGS, has talked about it in a different manner, a few years ago. But it kind of tripped into it, and I'm going to bring a couple of good friends of mine up to help me talk about the subject in a moment. But just so I can kind of introduce you to it and let you know how it kind of came to mind. Make sure you support the show. Please don't forget about that. Despite the technical errors, still try to bring it to you. But anyway, this is let me see if I can share it this way. This is a piece that I did a short little blurb post. I shouldn't say short. For a Facebook post, it was rather extended. But I was watching a movie, and I noticed something that kind of sparked a thought that I wanted to share. And I shared it, and I posted it on the blog page for newblackmasculinities.wordpress.com. You can read it there. It is the latest post. It's also posted on my Facebook, my Twitter page. But it was, kind of an observation about what I consider to be ignored emotional labor in relationships. Ignored emotional labor. Right? So what I'll do is just kind of tell you what I wrote and explain a couple things, and then we'll jump into it. All right. So this is actually, where I started out. I said, I just had a strange flashback. I'm watching a film dealing with a married couple who could not have children. At every street corner they walk by, women with babies in baby carriers, or, receive letters from family members who've just had babies. At each instance, the wife nearly collapses in tears. Appreciate the support, 3000. So yeah, she almost collapses in tears, unless the husband gently redirects her before she comes into contact with such situations. This reminded me of my late wife. We had lost 3 pregnancies in all, despite that she had to deliver one. And I remember damn near developing a radar-like spider sense to help her avoid such understandably devastating situations. To not do so could mean she'd spend several days in bed curled up in silence. So there's one scene in this film where the main protagonist, she's reading a letter from her newly wed. Appreciate that support, Rick. Thank you. She's reading a letter from her newly married sister who has become pregnant. And in reading the letter, she starts crying, right? Now, I had learned to read my wife's body language and voice inflections in hyperspeed to know when to listen, when to read it for her, when to change the subject, when to come back to the letter when she could better handle it, or when to catch her before she collapsed to the ground. Having been in that situation several times, I found myself anticipating that in the film. In other words, when I was watching the character, I didn't remember what the letter was. I hadn't seen the movie in a while, but really in the first few words, I heard it in her voice, and I immediately responded. And what I started to do was I was gently mouthing what I've said and done to assuage my wife, and was amazed to see the husband in the film doing exactly what I did, saying what I said. Even when walking down the street, he was doing the same kind of actions that I had done. I said, and it made me realize something I've only talked about to a rare few people: the emotional work men do in relationships that no one admits occurs. Popular culture tells us only women do emotional work in relationships, but I found this to be untrue. The preemptive yet protective, or I should say proactive, work of protecting loved ones by both solving and preventing potential problems, especially in situations where the emotional toll of it could last years, of guiding, advising, strategically joking or teasing at the right moment, changing a TV show or a film, or avoiding it altogether, or sometimes engaging in strategic silence when most useful to her. Right? To initiate a conversation, to initiate sex, remedy a practical need, provide a nominal distraction, tell a story, sometimes related to the situation, sometimes not, or give a gift at precisely the right impactful moment is emotional work. It's inevitable in today's culture, however, that some will call this patriarchal or controlling. Here I find that certain patriarchal gestures are welcomed by women when it serves them, be it personal or political, but it didn't develop in a vacuum. I noticed that it was actually requested by my wife without words, at first with a longing, tear-soaked stare, and came to be something she relied on. We never spoke it aloud. It just was needed and performed and thus came into existence. This is marriage, after all, and such happens organically. It became like a dance we did that she trusted me to lead, so she didn't have to keep putting herself back together again from scratch. Still, few speak of it, even amongst men. She's been gone for 13 years, and I'm just now remembering and acknowledging that this was something that I used to do. And it's all coming about from a damn movie, right? Matter of fact, come to think of it, I now remember watching this movie with her and holding her hand. Appreciate that support, Harley. I remember watching this movie with her and holding her hand during these scenes. And there are two scenes in the film that go there. And I remember distracting her with random observation, joking with her, doing whatever I could to distract her from having the full emotional moment hit her just long enough for the scene to finish and then going back to the film. And I didn't even remember this until I was writing this after having watched the film. I didn't remember I had watched it with her. So I said, fellas, we must learn to overcome this silence. If we're valued and judged by invisible emotional labor performed in service to lovers and wives, then we should speak it aloud and clarify its nature, because it's damn sure critiqued when not provided by us or performed perfectly, despite that we've never formally been taught how to do it. But nevertheless, women expect it, even though they won't ask for it, and they will blame you if you don't perform it with flawless precision. Right? So at the end of the day, it really just came down to this question of emotional labor. Now, this can take many different forms. It can take the form of attention. We talk about that here online, or at least we used to a little bit more, about what lengths women will go for male attention and what role it plays for them. But emotional labor is a little more than just attention. It's actually playing a very specific role in relation to how, or I should say, in terms of how we relate to women. And it tends to be a thankless role, one that is assumed, right? And not necessarily regarded completely. So I want to bring in a colleague of mine. Bring the brother up. Good brother Marcus Aurelius. What's up, man?
How you doing?
I'm good, man. What's happening with you?
Chilling, man. Just hanging out.
With the flawless.
That guy ain't got no PhD.
And there's a flawless lighting going on. I see you, man. Now, This is my good brother Marcus Aurelius. You got to support his channel. Keep it 100 here on YouTube, and if you're on Facebook, look out for the brother. Support him there as well. When does your show go on? When do you do your show?
I'm trying to get some sort of regular schedule situation. At this point, I would say check for me Saturdays.
Okay.
Saturday, like afternoon Pacific and evening.
That's what's up.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, I invited Marcus on because on a wholly separate post, he got into a discussion with a woman who actually took issue, right, with the conversation men were having. Now, y'all know most of my platforms for social media are for Black men and for the most part about Black men and boys. But she got in there and really pitched a fit. And, I noticed him doing something in there that that I knew wasn't an accident. I was laughing the whole time he was doing it. Will you tell us a little bit about what happened?
So I think the post was the one where I think it was the woman that was, I guess, celebrating her husband, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he had did I don't remember it in detail, but he had did a bunch of things for
Yeah, I
her.
think I think she had hurt herself falling down the stairs, and he had to take her to the hospital and feed the kids and bathe her and drive her around. Then he had to fly to the other side of the country and drive back in the next day. She was
Yeah.
praising him for doing all of that.
Hashtag husband duties, right?
Right.
Was that it? Okay.
Yeah.
So there was a photo of her smiling and him like exhausted in the background. I don't know if it was planned or she took a picture of him next to him, knocked out, for
Mm-hmm.
doing all the wonderful things that he had just finished doing for her, and she was praising him for that. And basically in the comment section, and I think you gave some commentary for that, but in the comment section, pretty much, you had a few guys who jumped in and basically, spoke to what their experience
Right.
is, their observation is when they see guys do that. Usually the outcome, usually, not always, typically the outcome is not positive, meaning that, you might do all of this and all that. You might be a husband, you might be a good man, good father, and all of those things, but it doesn't guarantee you that you'll get the love, support, and loyalty of the woman that you're doing it for.
Yeah.
So,
I think brothers were saying things like she's still gonna divorce him. I
yeah,
was like, damn.
yeah, which is what I would say.
I mean, we know 1 out of 2 marriages ends in divorce, and 70-80% of those are initiated by women. Statistically, they were right. It's more than
Yeah.
likely. But go ahead.
So this woman, upon seeing these posts, these responses, she jumps in and she's like, her position was basically, oh, you got to come in here with something negative. You guys don't have to, she tried to frame it first as the men were putting the man down for
Right.
doing what he did.
Right.
And you had a couple of guys respond to her. My man, I don't know if he's in the comments because I tagged a bunch of people in this video. A couple of guys that I know very well jumped in the comment section and basically tried to come at her from a logic based
Right.
sort of argument, trying to reason
Mm-hmm.
with her, and her response was typical.
Okay.
So
Well, how would you describe her response?
her response was basically I don't know, combative, like oh, you guys are, oh, you're so negative, and you why don't you give her, no, I think it was if this was a post about a man who was a good father, and you're like the women who would come in and say no, but fathers ain't nothing, and it's about the mothers who are mothers and fathers, and yada 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 yada.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that I couldn't see the logic in these guys' approach, because I definitely could.
Yeah, because normally that would be you. Well, I started laughing because when the way you approached it, I was like, "Uh-oh, he up to something." But go ahead. All right.
So I did a social experiment,
Right. Right.
right? So I think I'm trying to find words for the approach that I use, but pretty much it was a kind of you probably have your own words for my
Mm-hmm.
approach, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say that I came at her on I appealed to her emotions.
Yeah.
I appealed to her emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and I use situations, and I've done this before, but probably not. I've done this before, but probably I don't do it as often. But I try to, appeal to, you know, I guess her point of view. I flipped the script on her, so to speak, and put her in the position. I think I told her something to the effect as like, these guys are merely speaking on their their experiences and their observations. Another thing is, she said, well, women don't typically do this. I said, you're right. So you always got to lead with an agreement with them. I agree with you. You're right about that. I agree with you. Right. However, right. Gotta hit them with the however. They
Mm-hmm.
don't like the however, but I told her, I said, I agree with you, but however, these guys are coming from, uh their truth, like you women love to say. It's your truth. You gotta, I'm speaking her language, right? We're speaking our truth, like you ladies love to say, we're speaking our truth,
Right.
right?
Right.
So then I told her, I said it would be the same as if you said no matter what you did for a man, if you cooked and cleaned and took care of house and home, that wouldn't guarantee that he would be faithful to you.
Right.
So I gave her that. She couldn't disagree with that
Mm-hmm.
because it's a point they make all
Okay.
the time. What she's gonna tell me no,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
These are sales tactics. Get them to say yes. Okay, you agree with that? We'll agree with this. Who you gonna tell me? No, that's different. No, now you're being blatantly,
Mm-hmm.
bad. You're arguing in bad faith
Right.
if you do that, right? So, I came at her with a bunch of different, I guess appeals to, like I prioritize her feelings,
Right. Right.
right?
Right.
And eventually, atypically, it ended on a good note because
Right.
usually my,
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
interaction with these women do not end well. Most of the time, it does not end well.
You end
And
up having spectacular arguments.
yeah,
Just spectacular arguments that may last days.
yeah, yeah, and it often devolves into petty nonsense, but I can go there too. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to try something. You know what I'm saying? And of course, that's not going to work all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to work all the time, but uh, yeah, I came at it I took a different approach, but it was very deliberate
Right.
because I
And
don't know this woman. I have nothing to gain from it. You know?
well, what was interesting about it to me is, what she ended up doing was thanking you, right? At the end of it, she said you were the only one that paid her respect, which was interesting because nobody had disrespected her.
Nope.
Nobody had called her out her name. Nobody argued with her. They were just presenting arguments about, their perspective.
Yeah.
You actually you made the extra step
Hmm.
of, prioritizing her emotions, and from there, she thanked you. Everything was cool. She ended it right, and
And
I,
I kept saying nice things.
right,
I
right.
just kept firing off the nice things.
Well, look, and this is why this is one of the reasons I invited you today because I'm gonna post this so we can look at it. What I argue that you did is you performed what I call a male relationship emotional form of labor. Right. I'll read over the technical definition, especially for our listeners over the radio, and then we'll kind of apply it. So male relationship emotional labor provides myriad forms of emotional security to varying degrees for all women, whether it be intimately, publicly, socially, institutionally, or politically. i.e., policy. It is a hidden relationship expectation alongside money, sex appeal, sexual performance, and black male gynocentric servitude. It is the masculine counterpart to socially expected female gender role, or the role of providing nurturing and supporting relationships. It is our most sought after resource as it is part of our protection dynamic, despite that it is not acknowledged by women or men publicly. It is still our most valued resource. Now, what I'm saying here is you had a woman come into a male space essentially demanding to have her feelings prioritized, and the degree to which men wouldn't do it was grounds for argument. When you did it, right, she got what she wanted, calmed down, and left. And what I found interesting about that was the entitlement in that regard. She came into a space that is not about her feelings or perspectives. It was actually a conversation I was having with black men about this particular post, but she came in demanding to be centered and argued until somebody did. And when she did, she was calmed down. So what I look at, and that's why I said it to you in that piece, I said that was an amazing amount of emotional labor. But we don't think about it as emotional labor because, one, we're not actually taught how to do this explicitly, but it is expected that you frame her emotional well-being. You know what I mean? Whether you're talking about your girl or whether you're talking about a stranger. This is a woman I'm assuming you never met before, right?
Never had any interaction. I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
Oh,
And you came in and masterfully, it made her feel better, right? Despite that you disagreed with her as much as everybody else up there, right? But I consider that a form of emotional labor that is expected of men, even though it's not explicitly talked about. Right? It's one of those relationship expectations. You need to know how to quote unquote handle her. I'm sure many brothers have heard that before in varying contexts. But this is what I saw you doing. Now, what do you think about your exchange as far as that?
I mean, I would agree. I just felt again. It was an experiment. It's not something. I mean, again,
Right.
there's people in the comment section who know me, right? So, you know, it's in my game and PUA strategy package will be available on Monday, right? So Peace God says. So basically, it's a kind of. If you guys see, I'll get to some of the comments in a minute because he's the one guy says, "Oh, because I look like Tyrone, she thanked me, and I'm John Allen right now, so nobody knows what I look like."
She didn't know
But
that. Nobody knew what he looked like.
that's the alter ego right now because I'm in Facebook jail. But for the guys who have to play this game, like they have no alternative just for the how can I say, to have peace
Mhm.
in their environment, have peace in their house, man. And it's like, again, I had nothing invested. I don't have any of these obligations and things like that. So for the men who do, right, and the men who are either tied to these women through marriage or they lived with them, or whatever the case, children or whatever. I mean, to have to play this sort of you know psychology, right?
Mhm.
And I don't think that every dude is, every man is inclined
Mhm.
or even able
Right.
to do this, and they suffer,
Right.
for that, over that inability, or whatever. Or even, again, like, again, a lot of this stuff, it doesn't work all the time. It depends on, how reasonable, or how, I hate to say it, manipulative
Mm.
that this sort of thing can be. But um you do face some sort of obligation to do these things when you are in situations with these women where you're married, live together, and you have something to lose by uh not doing it,
Mhm.
you know
What I find interesting is it's one thing if you're married and you're providing that resource to your wife. That was the example I started with in my own relationship. It wasn't something that I was ever formally asked for, but it was needed, right? It was the service that I. But you have strangers who demand this, and this is not just limited to the internet. I've seen this kind of thing happening, in person with strangers at hotels and conferences. It's an interesting kind of dance that tends to happen, but it's not something that men get credit for, and that's really
Yeah.
the crux of what I wanted to talk about tonight. It is an expected role that you play, but it's not necessarily one that you're acknowledged for or that men get credit for. Because if you ask the question in general, who does the emotional work in relationships? Very rarely will anybody point out men, including men themselves. But what I'm thinking of, what I'm arguing, is that there are a lot of ways that men provide emotional support that go unnoticed, even by the men providing that support. Being her anchor, being her resource, redirecting her, and trying to engage her feelings and change her mood and all these kinds of things. These are now, one of the things that I had a woman tell me recently. She said, "Well, these are just human things. These are just human things that all humans do." I said, "That's interesting because it's not a human thing that men get credit for. If anything, men are talked about as if we have no sense of emotion at all. We have no understanding of it. We're not necessarily robots, but we're really just clumsy and incapable of handling it." But what I see is how often men actually do, caretake emotions for the people they value, most particularly women and girls, in ways that most are oblivious to. Most are oblivious to. And that's one of the reasons I asked you to come up here, because what you did was intentional, and I knew it was, because normally you're the one throwing gas and a lighter on stuff, blowing it up. When you came in, I said, "What is he doing?" And after a couple of posts, I was on the floor dying. I said, "He is doing this intentionally," which to me, meant that this doesn't have to be something that stays under the radar. This is something that some of us are very aware of in terms of what's needed and why. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious, have you seen other men engaging in this kind of work on one level or another?
Yeah, all the time. I but most of the guys, you see, I want to say something about marriage. I do understand that, when you are married to someone,
Mhm.
on some level is something that you want to do, but you have women or wives who have like next level mental issues.
Right, right,
And
right.
when I say that, I don't necessarily mean clinical. I just mean like, just personality, character traits that, like, you have to do constant consoling and safeguarding of feelings and emotions, and eventually it'll burn you out. I mean, we
Yes.
we still don't know under what circumstances Megan Good's husband left her, but we just know
Mm.
that husbands don't typically divorce their wives.
Mhm.
Sometimes,
Mhm.
even in a married situation, it may get to be too much. Um, I think that, it's just like Peace God said earlier. I think that a lot of it, right, especially when it is strangers, you got. I think our culture teaches Black men, especially, that protecting Black women is protecting their feelings and emotions. When that situation happened with Megan the Stallion, right? The whole protect black women narrative popped up, and it
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily attributed to allegedly Tory Lanez's actions. It was about people coming at her on social media, right? So there's this thing where, guys react and to protect the feelings of Black women or women, or, like you say, doing emotional labor for women that they don't know. This could mean celebrities, this could mean their girlfriends, this could mean a woman on the street, this could mean,
Right.
it's any woman that they come into contact with, because from what we understand, women are emotional, right? And most of their damage happens to them through their feelings, and most of our traumas happens to us physically. This is what we've come to be taught. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So yeah, it becomes a job. Not, and sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it.
Right.
You
Right.
don't even realize you're doing it.
Right.
And like you said earlier, you will be held accountable for your failure if you fail to do this, whether it be through ignorance, inability, or any other. you know, other reason,
Hmm.
you'll be held accountable, even if that consequence is not, obvious or apparent or whatever the case may be.
Right.
They're gonna hold you to it. I mean, and I
Yeah.
wanted to point this out because I said this to you before. Uh, Jada Pinkett had
Hmm.
made a comment about Will Smith where she said that she at one point felt that if he loved her, he would be able to read her mind. So if he
Yes.
paid
Yeah.
attention enough, he
Yeah.
would be emotionally intelligent enough
Hmm.
to know when to protect her or carry her emotional load. And if he wasn't able to do that,
Yes.
therefore he did not love her, and
Hmm.
then she would act upon that notion.
Exactly. Now you had a comment come in from Sir Tice, and he said, "Correction, brother Marcus. It is indeed clinical, endorsed and encouraged by society. As men, we're supposed to be welcome mats. Take all their bleep, even to our detriment. Salute, brother Professor T and MA." So you had a
Shout out to Tice.
yeah. But I'm going to read to you now. When I read my piece or wrote my piece and put it on Facebook about this emotional labor, and again, this came from watching a movie and it kind of hit me the kind of emotional labor that I've done before. Now, here's the thing: before I go into it, I can also say that I have withdrawn my emotional labor support as well. There are people that I didn't feel appreciated it and didn't honor it with respect. So even if I stayed in contact with them, I withdrew my willingness to provide emotional labor, and that came with a lot of hostility, in the response to my withdrawing it. Because again, this isn't something we talk about. This isn't something men are explicitly asked for. So I didn't withdraw anything else except my willingness to provide emotional labor, and I saw the response to that, especially in relationships, all kinds of hostility, frustration, so on and so forth. But nevertheless, I've been in that situation, and this film actually kind of made me think about how much I've done over the years. And at the end of the post, I asked men, if you have experience with providing emotional labor, write in. And there were a number of men that did, but most of them wrote in privately, because they didn't want, to have their spot blown up or whatever by talking about, wives and so on and so forth. So here's one response that came in, and I edited it a bit to protect brother's identity. I'll just call him T. He said, just read your post on black men and ignored emotional work in relationships. He said, I can't really post online as I don't feel comfortable with folks reading into my marriage.
Mm.
But he said, I believe I've had this experience. During the first weeks and months of my marriage, I experienced my wife going into breakdowns about her physical appearance. I was totally thrown off by it. We dated for years before marriage. She exhibited and displayed great confidence and seemed to really have it all together. She said, I know we're not, none of us are perfect, but she seemed to have it all together. She was and is what would be considered exceptional professionally, in terms of her background, very accomplished. He said, I didn't see any signs of this. Anyway, I would have to console, hug, encourage, calm her down, and remind her she's attractive. The point is, I found it emotionally exhausting. He said, I just didn't see it coming. I wasn't prepared. I had to then, what do you say? I had to then and continue to now find the emotional energy to be supportive in this way for now many years of marriage. He said, I felt like a jerk in the past for being exhausted. And that's key, right? Again, this is a resource that he was never trained to provide. He was dating her for years, didn't know it was going to be a requirement in the relationship. And when he found it to be a requirement and did not do it as well as he would have liked to, because he was clearly unprepared, he felt like a jerk for being exhausted, having to provide a certain type of presence and labor that he didn't know even had to be done. He said, what I also felt was being inadequate to help her with this struggle, which had nothing to do with me. He said, I would tell her, I cannot be a co conspirator in your anxiety and self loathing. He said, I just really didn't have the tools and was frustrated by it. But I think the key component here, too, is and you kind of alluded to this a minute ago,
Mm.
he himself, as a lover, as a husband, is measured by whether or not he can provide this resource.
Yeah.
Even though, again, this is not something we've ever had. It's one thing, when you're a young man, especially if you have a father in the home and they explain to you how to engage with women, how to interact, so on and so forth. That's one thing. Many of us didn't have that. But to go a step further, even if you did have a father, how many fathers actually sit you down and prepare you for emotional labor? I'm not saying it doesn't happen. but I wouldn't argue that it's a constant or thing that we can say happens all the time. And yet marriages fall apart. And something else you alluded to a moment ago I thought was important, the degree to which a relationship can end, right?
Yeah.
It can leave you over something nobody talks about aloud, right? Talk a little bit about that part of the game, or that part of the dynamic in relationships where you're expected to do this thing, even though there's no clear discussion about what it is.
Well, people often what they call it, out of a lack of a better term, is you weren't there.
Uh-oh.
You've heard this before. A lot of times, you hear this stuff in divorce courts. He wasn't there for me.
Ah.
And even if you get cheated on, right? That's a reason for infidelity, is he wasn't there for me, or he was emotionally unavailable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
These are the terms that we're used to hearing. And a lot of guys, man, again, they don't know what this stuff means.
Mhm.
Unless you're gonna give a college course on it, right? A lot of guys don't know what this stuff means. I think that when guys are in a situation where they may learn from their father or an older guy, or even their mothers or whoever, how to deal with women, they don't necessarily tell them how to do this. They get taught how to continuously cater. I think
Mm.
I think it's to some degree not even the same thing. So even when Peace God says, how to be a simp, I think that some aspects of it can be quote unquote simping, but I wouldn't say that this is necessarily simping. In the same way that we typically attribute nurturing to women, I
Mhm.
think that this could be the same thing in the male context, right? Where you can be nurturing to your wife and children as a man,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? I think you remember the video where the guy was teaching his daughter gymnastics, and she was feeling bad. I don't know if you've seen that video, but
Oh, I vaguely remember that. Refresh my memory though.
so there was a video, and I had it on one of my casts, where
Mhm.
a guy was, from young all the way up to like maybe the age of 10, of young teenage years, different videos of this father uh teaching and training his daughter to be a gymnast. She was doing all these flips and like incredible stuff.
Mhm.
And if she didn't do it good enough according to how she felt, then
Oh yeah.
he would console her,
Oh yeah. Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
It's not simping, right? But it's being nurturing. And the funny thing is, it had a huge negative backlash from women, even though the guy was doing, the nurturing, quote unquote, handling his daughter's emotional labor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, they look right past that to say, oh, he's forcing her to do these backflips and this,
Oh,
that,
that's
and the
what it. Yeah, that's what it was. They were saying he was forcing her to do it. Right.
other. So
Okay.
he was Richard Williams, right? Right. So they look right past that, and it was apparent. It was like he didn't edit the video, he didn't edit it out. It was all in the video, and you could see him like, what do? We try again, and this and that, and if it's okay to cry and blah blah blah. We see black fathers do that with their sons,
Mhm. Mhm.
but again, whether it's your children or even if it's your spouse,
Mhm.
um, you know, again, your kids might be mad at, if you you know grow up with your father, he's cold to you, you might have negative feelings about your father, but you can't divorce your father. And when it comes to these women, what they're told this by previous generations, that if he doesn't accommodate you in this way, if he's not you
Yeah.
know how I say, accommodated to your feelings of this and that, he doesn't handle you this or that way emotionally, then
Mhm.
he's not a real man, or he's not a good husband, or et cetera, et
Mhm.
cetera.
Right.
And for different women, that could mean different things, and you have to kind of decode your woman,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
because they have these things called, I'm sure you heard the term love languages, right? So you have to hold your woman. And if you don't do that, then
Mm-hmm.
you have failed. And
Mm-hmm.
it's grounds for divorce as far as they're concerned.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's a moment ago when you mentioned boys. Now there is, I mean, it is true that this is a human engagement. This is a human act, and it happens differently with different groups, but it can present very differently. When I thought about boys, when you were talking about raising children, and when I've seen fathers do this kind of emotion work, I give you an example. There's a good brother I know. He used to live down the street from me, and he would always put, he had all these kids in different kinds of sports, right? And he had one of his sons was playing football, and he was a coach. He was trying to stay engaged, make sure his son was doing his thing. And there got to be a point where, one game, his son said, "I don't want to play anymore."
Yeah.
And he was like, normally he said, normally I'd be like, "All right, go sit down." But then he said, "I'm afraid of one of the players on the other team." Right. So he's sitting there listening to his son. His son says, "I don't want to play anymore." He's about to go let him sit down until his son says, "The reason I don't want to play is I'm afraid of one of the other players." Now you smiling. You know where this is going, right? What do you do as a father if your child, especially your son, and this isn't some, just blind macho, whatever. It's really manhood. Appreciate that support, Frankie. It's manhood training, because
Yeah.
we know that if you are to protect and provide for a family, if you are run by fear, you're not in the best position to protect and provide anyone. And yes, it starts in childhood. So the moment his son said, "I'm afraid," his father said, "Get back up here."
Yeah.
And he made him in every play directly face the one person he was afraid of until he beat him on the field. And then he pulled his son aside and talked to him to make sure he understood the importance of what he just did and what that experience was about, because it wasn't about, just being macho. And, and I've heard these responses from people, "Oh, he just did it because he was arrogant or he was macho and he didn't want his son to reflect on him poorly." No, he did it because he understood that if you don't catch this now at a young age, the moment it presents itself, your son can be, accustomed to following whatever his fear dictates. Whatever he's afraid of, he avoids. You know what I mean? So, father, he demonstrated it. But now that's emotional labor, right? I'm not saying emotional labor doesn't happen across different, contexts. I'm not saying that, but I am saying there's a very particular type of emotional labor that men provide in relationships that goes unregarded. Now, I will say this too about Black fatherhood or fatherhood in general, right? Even what I just gave you was an example of the emotional work that men do with sons, as one example. And it doesn't generally get regarded either.
No.
When I've heard those kind of situations brought up publicly, even over social media, the first gesture I hear people go for is to attack the father. Just like in the description of the thing you just gave us on the gymnastics. They immediately attack the father to say he was forcing her to do it. Just like I've heard them attack the father in the scenario I gave, because it really wasn't about helping the boy, it was about his ego. No, there's a very particular type of emotional, and the reason, and again, I think part of the reason that people are so quick to attack men in these kind of scenarios is they don't imagine that there's actually a reason for what we do that might be supportive or uplifting for the person in question. And I do think it extends to fatherhood as well. And I want to get back to relationships, but I just want to bring that up because you brought that to mind, and I thought about that. And again, it's an unregarded type of emotional work. It's ignored.
I want to also add that a woman's version of the same thing would be to pull her son out of that game and pet him on the forehead. And
Mhm.
that's see, there's again, like you say, emotional labor, that would be a mother's, emotional approach to the same situation.
Mhm.
At least most of them. They'll pull
Mhm.
their son out of the game because they don't want their son to get hurt, and they see that he's afraid and yada yada. So they console it that way, whereas a father would do it differently.
And I
Um,
and working with coaches, working with trainers, working with men in these positions who have to deal with children who are a product of single parenthood.
yeah,
They've outlined this to me over and over. And even brothers that I know, one brother who ran a oh goodness, what's it called? A rite of passage program for about 20 years, I believe. And he told me this story, everything you just described, over and over and over again. When boys are put into a challenging situation, where men are challenging them to grow, the first response of many a mother is to pull him out and nurture him.
Yeah.
You know what happens on the back end, though? She'll come back a few years later when he's in all kinds of trouble and ask men to fix him.
Or blame him.
Or blame him. Yeah, very true.
Blame the person who wasn't there. Or blame men in general.
Mhm.
And bring it and kind of to kind of like bring this to a relationship framework. You
Mhm.
have men, because again, we are not trained in this sort of thing. We deal with each other. Like when we let's say, we got a friend that has a issue or a challenge or whatever.
Mhm.
Same way we would deal with our son, right? We would deal with our friends. But
Mhm.
what tends to happen is men, because they're trying to be problem solvers, will
Mhm.
approach their spouses this way,
Mhm.
right? When what your spouse wants is to be approached how they would approach their son.
Uh-oh.
You get it?
Uh-oh.
So the same way, the mother will pull the son out of the game because he's afraid, and he wants to be protected. At least that's how they think it. And the father will say, "No, get back in there."
Mhm.
See, the approach that a lot of men take with their women is, "Oh, you face a challenge. We're gonna push you in there and strengthen you because we're trying to solve the problem." When in reality, that's not what they want. They want what they would do.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
And that's a problem. And then they call that, an inability, or your emotional unavailability, oh, you're not being sensitive, whatever the case may be. But
Right.
but what we're talking about is the men who actually do it right
Mhm.
and not giving credit.
Exactly.
That's yeah.
Exactly. It's almost like, and we've heard this with men are from, what is it? Men are from, women are from Mars, and I forget the damn.
Women are from Venus, yeah.
Venus, and, we it's a different, it's considered a different emotional language, a different kind of conversation. And even in that discussion, what we're told is that men need to better understand women. We need to speak women's languages, but there's not really, in my assessment, an appreciation for the nuances, the subtleties of what men are actually doing. And I think this happens a lot, even to the degree where men's whole social worth is measured by whether or not they're able to operate and function in a manner that women approve of, rather than the value of what they actually do on their own. I think that's a whole different kind of conversation that needs to happen. And I think men need to be very not forceful, but very forthright about what roles they play, because we're not even trained to see this stuff. I mean, look, that's why I said it in the piece I wrote. It took me 13 years on a random night watching a movie that just happened to be on. I didn't turn it on. The TV was on. I was doing something else. It happened to be on. I started watching the scene and said, "Oh shit. Not only have I done that, I've done that for years."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was such a slap in the face to me to think about that type of labor, that it didn't dawn on me that I was doing it. And when I started to examine it more and more, especially by the time I posted and I had men writing in, there was a lot more to discuss. Matter of fact, here, this is one other post. This is one other response that a brother put in response to what I raised. He said, "Bruh, the reality of it is why many black men are disillusioned with the idea of relationships." He said the gender norm, which is reinforced by all sides of heteronormative relationships, as well as tertiary parties to relationships, requires men to be the stabilizing force in most emotional conflict.
Yes, sir.
Even in the midst of dealing with mental health and emotional health issues, I've been pressed to prioritize the mental and emotional health of romantic partners, knowing full well that my efforts could only mitigate the scale of harm done, not prevent it. He said, from partners entering dissociative states to attempting suicides, in which I was the last phone call before the intended end, to
Mm.
having to Aikido my way through hurtful words to get to the root cause of a conflict that started long before I had anything to do with triggering an argument. He said it never ends. Said women talk openly about sometimes misplacing anger and taking it out on their partners and never apologizing for it or taking steps to correct that behavior. How is that not emotional labor? He said, all of the men who took up the mantle of man of the house with their father's passing, that's not emotional labor. To stifle your own childhood, adolescence, to be the emotional and physical support for an adult woman. He said, our lives are negated in every way imaginable. And this is one of the most damaging aspects. We can't even love people and be recognized as loving.
Yeah.
That was, I
mean, I personally, I think we do a whole lot that's not recognized, but that's just me.
But that's, the thing that got me especially in that is when he said I keto my way through hurtful words to get to the root cause of a conflict that started long before I had done anything to trigger an argument. And then he said, women talk openly about sometimes misplacing anger and taking it out on their partners and never apologizing for it or taking steps to correct the behavior. In other words, it is expected that you take whatever I give you and you fix it, you deal with it. And even if you do it well, I'm going to take it for granted. I'm not going to thank you. I'm not going to acknowledge what you did. And I'm damn sure not going to apologize or work on the problem. But you are continued. It is a continual expectation that you handle this emotional labor in this relationship. You play this role to balance out my dysfunction. And your reward is you get to stay with me. That's what I see. But you tell me.
I got a quick story. It's a female. I won't say her name because she's often on my lives, but like, it was one time she was on one of my Facebook posts, and she was speaking on something. I forget what it was, and I had a difference of opinion, so we went back and forth a little bit, and it began to almost get to like you pointed out, one of my my go left posts, right? But this is somebody that me and her is cool, so it just seemed like it didn't seem normal, right? So she's going at me, Marcus, this, So I jumped in her DM and I said, "Are you okay?" Right? Now check this out. You know what? Typically I do. Somebody she's almost coming at my neck. I shoot back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I jump at, something is wrong. Are you okay?
Right.
So after that conversation, right, in the messenger, we had spoke on the phone, and she said that when I asked her was she okay, she immediately busts out in tears, and because I think that I might have done something that she wasn't used to guys doing.
Mm-hmm.
While she's attacking me, right? She's attacking me. Instead of attacking back, I wanted to know what her feelings were. Like, what's going on with you? What's making you feel this way? What are you going through? What is your trauma, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we good now because she's one of the people that will actually appreciate that. I mean, she's non-typical, but that's usually what it is. It's like this video I was watching Lapeef and them, and he's like, if a woman's attacking you, you have to restrain her, and all of these things that men have to think about while they got 100 darts coming at them. Right. And if you don't have enough, again, emotional intelligence to do this,
right,
then you're not worthy. You're not a real man. Like, it's crazy. One more thing. Shout out to Peace God. Peace God. I didn't take you calling. Yeah, I didn't take it as you were calling me a simp. So don't think that. But yeah, man. You almost have to, like you said, take that attack in stride,
mm-hmm.
and ignore all the potentially like damaging and hurtful things that they're either saying and doing to you.
Mm-hmm.
To say, hey, what's going on, baby? Are you okay?
I think here's the thing though. I think one of the things that's one of the things that's happening right now is
Go ahead.
No, but I think there's a movement going on with men. I think men are reevaluating their roles, their self-definition, and the expectations put upon them. I think this is happening right now across race. I'm not saying that everybody's going to come to the same conclusion, but I think people are asking the same questions, but most particularly men, about where we fit and how we're expected to function and all of that, right? So I think that's one thing that's happening. And I think with black men, I'm seeing it on social media. I'm seeing it slowly happening in the academy. I'm seeing it just among everyday men, where men are saying, wait a minute, there are all these expectations of me, but what exactly do I get
Yeah.
for sacrificing my life, my energy to play these roles for other people? And I'm told I'm just supposed to do it. Now you'll have other men, right, who support the status quo that'll shame you,
Yeah.
for questioning whether or not you need to do this. And what they essentially try to get you to do is to fall on your sword, right? Go back to the act of falling on your sword. Go back to the traditional chivalry led kind of behavior where you do things for others simply because. But I think men are at a point, and it's understandable, because if women have redesigned their entire, set of gender roles, their entire set of self identity, if you're in a relationship, she can work full time, part time, not at all. She can have a baby. She can put up for adoption. She can have an abortion. There are all these new created, roles that she can play. But
Yeah.
men are still, it's 19. Appreciate that. Happy New Year, Tim. It's still 1955 for men. You
Yeah.
know, get with a woman and try to be a stay-at-home boyfriend. See how that works, right? The expectations, the expectations of men really haven't changed. There's been some lip service to it, but in my assessment, it really hasn't changed. And I think men are saying, well, if all of these different demographics can change the roles they play, why am I still playing by a playbook I was given that doesn't work? So I'm continuing, to provide these emotional services. And what I'm being told is to shut up and keep doing it. And so at some point the question is raised, well, not only what do I get out of this, but what is the exchange? See, people don't often know the traditional relationship model, where men were protectors and providers and women, provided for the domestic space, and there was an appreciate that, Broken Blade. What people don't know is there was an exchange of resources. That's really what that traditional idea was about. There was an exchange of roles and resources. Now, if
Yeah.
you're going to change the dynamic, fine, but that means you still have to address what the new exchange is. And where
Yeah.
we are now is women have changed the dynamic to suit them, but they still expect the same things of men. And men are saying, well, I can continue to play that role, but I get less and less for it. As a matter of fact, I may get cussed out for doing it, because in that given moment, it doesn't make you feel strong and independent. But in another moment, so in other words, if I open your door for you, I might get cussed out because I'm not honoring your independence. But
Yeah.
if I don't go get that burglar at 3 in the morning, then I'm weak and I'm soft. So all of these kind of gender roles that are still being played out leave men in a position, in many ways, of not really having their needs met, even though they're still expected of us. Now, I want to bring one other person into this conversation, and then later on, I'll open it up for men to come in and comment, men in particular. But I'm gonna bring brother BGS into it.
Oh. Oh. Oh.
Why do you say that, Marcus?
Yeah.
Although you're not shit for that, sir. Uh-oh. I get that all the time. Uh-oh.
What's
Well,
going on?
go ahead, Marcus. What were you saying?
No, no. I just said I'm saying hello to the man that just entered the room. How you doing?
Well, pretty good.
All right.
I I called BGS with this because even a few years ago, he was one of few people I've heard even talk about this.
Hmm.
And at the time, you were talking about it as non-sexual attention. Can you
Right.
talk to us a little bit about what you were talking about a few years ago and where you go with it now?
Um, well, non-sexual attention is pretty broad, right?
Mhm.
Uh, uh, Paying attention to her presence, giving her validation, um, even from a little girl, because I got daughters, right? Giving them a certain amount of validation, the certain way that you talk to them, um, basically listening to their problems. So there's a whole range of what I call non-sexual attention, right? And
Mhm.
really is comes under emotional labor. Okay.
Mhm.
Um, Even non-sexual attention, like giving some woman that you're not Could be your relative, it could be your coworker, it could be anything. Just complimenting on how she looks that day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Women look for that kind of stuff, that non-sexual attention.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's a whole range of it, and we're expected to give it away freely,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's one of the most important things of a woman's psyche is non-sexual attention. I mean,
Okay.
Marcus can tell you, women go seek it. They go seek it from the time that they're a little girl. They seek out uh, sexual attention when they get older, but also non-sexual attention. Okay, children do, but especially little girls. A little girl that will sit in your lap. Is your daughter sit in your lap when you're talking on the phone, or put her head in your lap or snuggle up next to you. Okay, that's non-sexual attention, but
Mm-hmm.
they're looking for that kind of validation. It kind of comforts them. It kind of comforts their emotional inward, because women have the need to be connected. Okay, men are individuals. Okay, we're born individuals, and men see themselves as the center of the universe, right? And everybody else is around them. Okay, women always see themselves as connected to something. In fact,
Okay.
there was a female philosopher that said the exact same. She's a feminist philosopher. She said she did studies about a language, in France, about how men and women uh, 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 see things, right? And men always start with an I, me, I and or me and, right,
Mm-hmm.
or me with, okay. Whereas women always see us. So women need to be connected. They need to be emotionally validated, and that keeps them sane, keeps them normal. Women believe, for the most part, there's very few women that can actually stand to be alone. So they
Mm-hmm.
did it. They need that constant attention. That's like when they have, they'll even have a boyfriend they don't like. Okay, just because they need that validation, they need that attention. So,
Yeah.
so a boyfriend can be an asshole, but the thing is, he gives her what she needs psychologically more than anything else.
And
And
that's interesting because I remember a few years ago working with a
mm-hmm,
group of young men at
mm-hmm,
my campus, and one of the things they would tell me is that most of the black organizations were run by most of the young women there,
mm-hmm,
and they would tell me about meetings, for example, right, where there'll be a 2 hour meeting,
mm-hmm,
and nothing will get done, but the entire meeting would be about emotionally, supporting one another for the entire time.
right,
But as far as the tasks were concerned, nothing would get done. So,
right,
by the time I'd set up this group for young men, I started to show them how men can engage differently and get quite a bit done. And they got to the point where they could have a 5 minute meeting in the hallway
right,
and plan out 2 weeks worth of, but it really came down to the difference in how many men and women engaged each other as
mm-hmm,
far as the goals of the group and what was to
mm-hmm,
be accomplished. And they were noticing these differences. Shout out to Roger Report. Appreciate you for being in here. They acknowledged the differences, but they weren't allowed to talk about them. That was the
mm-hmm,
thing. They were not allowed to talk about the differences because talking about them was considered um, inherently sexist. Thank you, Ishmael,
right,
for the support. It was considered inherently sexist to even talk about it. But they would be sitting in these meetings, and if they tried to bring up something as far as accomplishing something or getting something done, they would be shouted down. But
mm-hmm,
when they actually started working with each other, they found out they could be extremely productive. And they ended up changing the climate of the entire campus within a semester because once they were given the space to do it,
mm-hmm,
they found out how powerful they could be and how different and it didn't have to mean that what women were doing was inherently bad. It just wasn't how they wanted to work. And they had to be validated in a whole different way, given permission,
right.
basically ask questions they were not allowed to ask in any other context.
Yeah, what I think I forget his name was. He said, "Men are human doings and women are human beings," right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense, that is true. Okay, men are human doings. Okay, men don't want to sit around and talk about their feelings because that's not the way men work, and that's not the utmost important thing at the time. Men basically, even when men talk about their feelings and talk about their woes, man, it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, brother, I'm having this problem. They're really direct about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
About what's troubling them, what's going on with them. Because you can ask, let's say if a brother, call up a brother, if he really wants to talk about, hey man, what's happening? He'll tell you within 15 minutes what's wrong with him,
Mm-hmm.
and then he's looking for a way to solve it. Okay.
I was about to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's looking for a way to solve because that's the way we deal with our emotions. We channel our emotions through logic, right? Logic is problem solving, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Women channel women do the other thing. They channel their feelings, they logic through their feelings. Okay. So with any woman, if you want to solve her problem, you gotta. I tell I've actually counseled men on this that have a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I said most men, if they have a significant other and they have to solve something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and that first thing is forget all that other fluff. Let's get right to the problem. Let's get it solved. Let's do it in 15 minutes. Blah blah. I said no. You have to know how she feels about it first. You have to get through the feelings first. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get the you have to connect with her feelings first, and then once you connect with her feelings, then she'll let you get to solving her problem.
Mm-hmm.
It's the opposite, and basically those are two. Even though it seems like it's really simple, okay, those are two different thought patterns.
Mm-hmm.
There's two different languages. Marcus knows because he has to deal with them all the time, right? There's two different thought patterns, okay, and you can't talk to a woman the way you talk to a man. Okay, I don't care. I always tell guys if you married and because we talked about this, Doc.
Mm-hmm.
If you're married, you got a significant other, and I get this constantly, man. They say, why when my ex gets home or my ex or my woman gets home, my wife gets home, my mother gets home, my sister gets home, she immediately comes in and has to talk about her problems, right? I said, the first thing I asked, does she have a man? No. That's why you're her man today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're her man today, and that's the labor that's the job that you have to do. It's your job to sit there and weave through those emotions and get her emotionally stable because when she gets home, she's unstable emotionally. Okay, and she's looking for you to channel what she's saying, get in tune with her emotions and level her out. That's what she's looking for.
But
That's what she's looking for.
you're expected to know that that's an expectation of you,
Yeah.
even though how many people actually talk about that?
You've never been trained to do it, and it's not your domain. And basically, that's completely against your thought pattern, which is why men and women have fights. Okay, because they're if you have to read the book Men Are from Mars and Women Are from Venus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing I hate about white gurus, right? Because they don't get to the point. They mix all this woo woo language in it, right? Instead of get directly to the point. You don't think like she does. She thinks the exact opposite. You think logically and problem solving. She thinks feelings. I said to talk to each other, you have to reverse how you think. I tell the women the same way. Well, you know why I want to talk to him and get him to know me? I said he doesn't speak your language. You have to talk logic first, and then channel your organize how you feel into some kind of logical pattern, and then tell him, and he'll get it. He'll get it within 5 minutes. But if you have to tell a story, you have to paint a picture, all that kind of stuff, he's going to get lost because he understand it. Uh, say the picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Women are trying to paint a picture for you, so they're using like 3,000 words to paint a picture of their feelings for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know that, you won't pick up on it. But if you know that, you can shortstop that. You can actually shortstop that and say, okay, uh, do you feel this? Do you feel that? Is this what you're feeling? Is this how you feel? And once you understand that, she'll start responding to you about how she feels and get you directly to the to where the source spot is and said, okay, your boss. Okay, my boss came in and she was blah blah blah. She said this and said instead of saying what do you think about it or what happened, how did you feel when she said that? And that's what the source spot is. And once you get that, then you can connect. But that's takes skill, that takes learning, that takes trial and for men trial and error because men are never taught this, right? Because women can't teach it. That's one thing about women. Women because they expect you to know it, they expect you to be able to feel it, right? They expect you to be able to feel it and actually get it through osmosis almost. Okay, can you pick up what I'm saying? Can you pick up my nonverbal expression? Because that's what that biologically they're tuned to do that. Men are not tuned to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of when women said he doesn't listen to me, it's not that you don't listen to her. It's that you can't pick up her nonverbal expressions. Okay, you can't pick that up because you haven't been trained to.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marcus. You were going to jump in and say something.
Even when we know how to do it,
Hmm.
it
Yeah,
doesn't.
it's tiring.
Yeah, we don't always feel like it.
No, no, that's true.
And I'm laughing because as you're talking, and I seen the doc smirk a little bit. What popped in my head was the conversation on Facebook. Is that what happened for you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And again, that was something that I was doing consciously, and you have to do it consciously because, like you said, it's not our language, right?
Right.
So sometimes you don't feel like going to work, and
No,
that's
you
work.
don't. It's work.
That's
It is work.
that's work. And
Yeah.
and again, sometimes you don't even get the outcome of the work you're doing, right?
Mhm.
So it's tiring. It's a lot of energy, and you have to listen to them say a bunch of stuff that as a guy, like you don't talk like that. This is not language that you deal with. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So like you're kind of like digging through the mud, so to
You
speak.
are. You're sifting through
The
through all
BS.
the
Yeah.
BS. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And it's important that there be a difference.
Yeah. It
Appreciate
does.
the support, Troy. Because here's the thing: if especially even the way we train young men, if
Mm-hmm.
you get to a point where you're training young men to prioritize how they feel, and at first,
Mm-hmm.
before the situation is even dealt with, what does that do by the time you're talking to a grown man who's a father?
He's confused.
Yeah. And when there's a problem that goes on, when there's something that the family looks for him to solve and resolve, if
Mm-hmm.
he's not been trained to prioritize fixing the situation before
Mm-hmm.
filtering through his emotions, what
Mm-hmm.
happened?
Yeah. Well, basically you get let's be honest, you get a weak man because you haven't worked it against his own nature. That's what you get. And that's where you get the soy boy, you get the effeminate man, you get the simp um, because they've learned how to prioritize it, but they don't do it well.
Well,
Okay,
but here's the
the,
other
the,
part to that
go ahead.
though. The
Uh huh.
very women asking for that man, how
Yeah,
do those women address him? How do those
because he
women respond to men like
because they don't they basically okay they treat him like a tissue because it's he's not really effective. Okay, you can't do emotional labor as a woman. Okay, that's
Mhm.
that's the hardest thing to learn. Marcus knows this, right? You know this. You can't. Okay, there's a certain just like the father that was flipping his daughter. Okay,
Uh-huh.
okay, he was giving her he was doing emotional labor. He was attending to her to her emotional needs, but he wasn't doing it as a woman. That's like women disagreed with it. Okay,
Mhm.
he was just as effective, probably more effective, the way that he did it. Okay, but the thing is, they disagreed with it because that's not how women do it. Because he's not a woman. Okay, he
We
can't
discussed this
he
earlier.
can't do it. That's what women are look. That's what women looking from the outside outside in are looking at. Okay, I wouldn't have done it that way because I think that's abuse. No, it's not abuse. That's how men give emotional support. Just
Mhm.
like the father that sent his son back into the game, that's emotional support, but it's not done as a woman. Okay.
Well, there's a question that came in that I think
Mm-hmm.
is important to this. So Ishmael Thomas says, "Peace and blessing, brothers, and thank you for all this conversation. My question is, what does the collapse of a black man look like if this support is not reciprocated?"
Mhm.
He gets exhausted, just like anything else, man. He gets exhausted. I mean, um, anybody that's been around a whole bunch of women, right, and they don't have men, all right, and they're and every time you walk in a room, man, it's like you can't walk into a room, you can't say hello without them downloading on you, right?
Mhm.
Okay, and you find yourself basically avoiding just being in a room with them.
Mhm.
Okay, because you don't want to hear it. Okay, you get like you're like the 10th person today that's trying to download me, and basically just like anything else, just like any other energy, man, emotional energy is draining. Okay, and it gets to the point where you get exhausted, and basically that's like a lot of guys just become recluses, man. I'm around all these women, and I got to they're constantly drawing this emotional energy from me, and it makes you tired, and it makes you a recluse, and basically you don't have the enough emotional energy to actually be effective in your own life because some of those reserves you need to actually function as a human being. You
Mhm.
can't be giving all that out. That's like even people to get paid for it. Psychiatrists got to have somebody else to talk to
Mhm.
because
It's draining.
it's draining because they're pulling in emotional resources from you, and
Mhm.
so that's what happens to men that don't get that have to do this and have to do this constantly, fill that role, and don't get replenished or rewarded in some kind of way. A guy, say a woman that's a CEO or a high powered chick, and he's a stay at home dad, right? Or he's a supportive dad, right? And she knows how to pull from him, but she doesn't know how to give back. Then that guy winds up finding it someplace else, and he has to go have an affair, go have side chicks, or do something else, man, to replenish himself. And normally he'll wander off and he'll break up with it because he can't take it anymore. It's too draining. It's too much for him.
But see that
Because go ahead.
well, that's the interesting part of it. As long as this goes unacknowledged, there are
Hmm.
things that are happening. It's like looking at the surface of water. You
Right.
just if you don't see what's happening underneath it, you don't often understand what's really going on.
Right.
We have marriages ending, relationships ending,
Hmm.
or affairs taking place, and the only response I tend to notice for men is, oh well, he had an affair, he just wanted some sex, or he was
No.
inconsiderate, or he didn't pay attention to
No.
how much she was doing, and he just wanted to trade her in for another woman. There's a whole other area of what's going on in many relationships that isn't even part of the discussion. And if you talk about being drained, or you
Hmm.
talk about the degree to which this emotional labor that's expected of
Right.
you haven't
Hmm.
been trained to do, is
Hmm.
not appreciated, is taken for granted, or
Yeah.
assumed to not even exist, even though this person depends on it daily, that
Hmm.
in and of itself can cause you to want to go a whole nother way. But
Yeah.
all people see is, oh well, he just had another woman, he was cheating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's more than that. There's more going on than just that. But men don't even often know how to articulate it because this is not a
We
conversation we've really had.
because we've been trained that our emotion that we're not emotional. We don't have emotions. We're a sponge. We're a bucket. We're empty bucket, and it doesn't matter because men don't feel it anyway, right? They don't have an emotions. Then there's no emotional. Uh, there's nothing to draw upon because we're an empty vessel, right? So I can tell him, I can talk to him all day. He's not supposed to have an emotional response, right? But even though that you do, it's not acknowledged, and we're taught that it's not important, it's not valuable. Women are always taught that emotional support is valuable, right? That's the first thing they teach a woman to give her husband. That's one of the most important things that she can give her husband is emotional support, is validation, all that kind of stuff. They're taught that, right?
Mhm.
But men are not taught that it's that you giving your woman the validation, emotional support, listening to all that kind of stuff is important, and that it costs a certain thing. You should be reciprocated for it. And that's
Mhm.
the key. I think I told you like men's emotional support and emotional labor is like soap and towels in a hotel room, right?
Mhm.
Nobody notices that it's important, okay, until it's not there.
Yeah.
Okay. You can have the best room in the world, but if the soap and towels are not there, guess what? You're gonna call down to the. You probably won't even call down. You probably get in your robe and go down to the front desk and give somebody help because your soap
Yeah.
and towels are not there. Even though 99.9% of the times it's ignored. It's not important to you until it's
Mhm.
not there. And I think that women treat a man's emotional support that way.
Mhm.
Until it's withdrawn, they don't notice it. That's why I always tell guys, if she doesn't appreciate your emotional support, withdraw it and then see what happens.
Yeah.
You find out, just like the soap and towels is probably the most important things in that room. Okay, your emotional support is the
Yeah.
most important thing to her, probably even more than sex.
That's one of
Yeah.
the conclusions I reached years ago, that I decided to give myself the decision making capacity as to
Mm-hmm.
whether or not I wanted to provide that resource. Because mind you, before I got married, it was just a part of what I was, what I did.
Mm-hmm.
It was automatic.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, after my wife, I would say I really got to a point where I was like, you know what? I can actually decide if that's something I want to extend
Mm-hmm.
based on whether or not I think this person it deserves it or is
Mm-hmm.
appreciative. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying at that
But,
point,
but
as
even
an,
then, even then, you were still giving it away.
it's still giving it away. But even to take the step of saying I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to decide who to give it to was an
Mm-hmm.
important one. It was an important one because most men are not told that they can
Mm-hmm.
withdraw resources. And that sounds kind of idiotic on one level to say, but it's real. Most of
Mm-hmm.
us were told these are the things you need to be able to provide a woman in a relationship, and that's it. We were not really told you don't have to do these things, and you can withdraw them, and you can actually say, "This is what I require for that."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you talk a lot about that in terms of that, in terms of reciprocity.
Yeah.
How do
Yeah.
you frame that?
Oh well, I mean, you should get something back for me. If she's validating and supporting you and uh, um, taking care of your emotional needs, okay. it's just par for the course. If she's listening to you, listening to your problems and your hopes and dreams and all that kind of stuff, then it's a push. Okay, you're providing for each other. But if she's talking for 4 or 5 hours about her problem and you don't get a word in edgewise, that is
Oh,
not fair.
oh
You don't
no.
have to grunt. You don't have to grunt so loud, Doc.
Yeah, they made a song about that called "Shut Up and Let Me Talk." I'm gonna send y'all.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh
yes,
yeah.
Yeah,
real talk. Now, this
yeah.
is look. These are just some basic things. This is not an exhaustive list, but just to give a sense of
Mhm.
what some of the defined tasks are in regard to emotional labor. Now,
Mhm.
I acknowledge that emotional labor is something that is considered. It's really a human thing, but
Mhm.
again, men are not credited for this, right? And these are really kind of tailored to men, especially black men. But protecting and prioritizing her emotions is one of the first things.
Mhm.
So how you feel or what you think has to take a back seat if you're going to provide the emotional labor that women often regard as valuable. One of the first things expected of you is to place her emotions first, right? And this goes to what you just said a moment ago: listening to her for hours.
Mhm.
Sometimes women will even use sex to get you to listen to her.
Yeah. At least you get something though.
Well, and that's if she, women can withdraw that at the last second. Women can sit on the bed next to you naked and talk to you for hours and get up and leave. If it is what it
Okay.
is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he said, okay.
Yeah.
but
You can. They can. But the thing is, okay, that's like walking out and not paying the bill. Okay.
but again, but that's part of my point though.
Mhm.
The emotional labor men are doing is not considered a bill. It's not considered a thing that needs to be respected or acknowledged. It's not even discussed. It's assumed, just like you said with the soap and the towel. And so if she doesn't respond to it or doesn't acknowledge it, there's no
Mhm.
social punishment for that. There's no acknowledgement of that. But anyway, number three, being her emotional anchor.
Mhm.
Right. This is something that men have often experienced and it's expected of them, but it's not
Mhm.
something that's discussed. Number four, allowing her to download without expectation or retribution, being silent about the weight of such an unrequited demand. Um,
Mhm.
can y'all talk about what exactly downloading is? And I
Oh,
want Marcus to chime in on this as well.
oh yeah. Every man that's had a significant other knows it. Okay. Whether she calls, whether she comes by, and the first thing she walks in, she takes off her shoes, drops her purse, takes off her coat, and all of a sudden she starts telling you about her day.
Mhm.
She basically she's a town crier. Okay, for the next hour, you got to listen to her about her day and how she felt, what happened. That's downloading.
Now, I
And
know
then
you've
yeah,
had some experience with this, Marcus. You care to chime in on that one?
yeah, and like you said before, like a friend of mine, right?
Mm-hmm.
He first it was his girlfriend, then they got married, and sometimes I would be at the house when this would happen. I would witness it. She would come in, and she's not 5 minutes in the house, and
Mm-hmm.
she starts just dumping all of this stuff, right? And you could
Mm-hmm.
see his face. You could see his
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
face. Me and this guy are born 2 days away from each other. We're almost exactly alike. And I'm looking, I'm just chilling in the background, just looking at his face, listening to all this stuff, right? And eventually their relationship went left, and he blamed himself
Mm-hmm.
for his unwillingness or disinterest
Mm-hmm.
in stuff like that. Hey man, this and that, and I had to tell him no because I was there for it, and
Mm-hmm.
you could tell she didn't like me at all. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I had to tell him. I said, listen, man, this ain't you. You know what I mean? This ain't your fault. I mean, you tried, you did it, and you could see that it was draining for him to sit there and listen to all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
again, you can't like he can't approach her the same way he would approach me if I came in and said, "Hey, man, you wouldn't believe what happened, this, that, and the third." And like BGS said, we get the problem solving. You
mhm,
understand? But he is now required to do the job of someone who went to school, got a degree, paid for a
Right.
license, and
Yes.
now gets paid by the hour to listen to stuff like this and
Yes.
offer therapy and consoling and
Yes.
all of that stuff. People, this is a job for people, and we are required to do it for free, and for the most part, no, either no benefit, no profit, or not even
Hmm.
in most cases reciprocation. We don't, because when often when I hear women say men are not sensitive, men are not emotional, what that means is to their issues.
Right.
Because when you
Right,
start
right,
being
right.
emotional to your own issues, and they say, well, why men don't what they call it, speak out, or open up. That's open up, right? We've
Mm-hmm.
seen a lot of that lately. But as
Mm-hmm.
soon as you do, you get shamed, roasted, clowned, and you get called moist and blah, 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 blah. So it's disingenuous. It's this male sensitivity is really about um what we've been talking about. You know, emotional labor, and managing women's emotions. That's what it's all about. That's the only thing that we're required to be emotional about, is everything that has nothing to do with our
Right.
issues. It's
Right.
all about their issues, and that's it.
But it's interesting. You end up having to do two things at once, because you do have to be there emotionally and all of that. But if it's a practical issue that needs to still be solved
Yeah,
after the emotional component of it is addressed, you're still
Hmm.
expected to solve the practical end of it. So
Hmm.
it's not just that we have to shift and learn to listen and all. We still are expected to do the masculine, the typically or traditionally
Yeah.
masculine role on top of
Yeah.
doing this type of extra emotional labor.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
find interesting about it.
And
It's not one or the other; it's both.
it's both,
yeah,
and that's the modern day feminists, right?
Mhm,
They want you to play both roles. Play the give you the benefits of having a masculine man, and the benefits of having a feminized man to actually listen to you. They want you to play
mhm,
both roles.
right.
Most of labor is a female role,
Mm,
and if men are not trained and tuned to do it, they can't play. They can't do that, right? Like Mark was saying, his friend, she comes in, and starts dumping on him, and he has that visceral reaction. She can see it, and she can see that he's not really tuned into her. She can
mhm,
see it, so it's obvious. Um, and he's required to actually find a way to actually accommodate her and get things done right. Actually control her and channel her emotions and get it done efficiently. That's what she wants, right? Even though she can't do it for herself, and that's how come it wind up breaking up. And because in her eyes, it's his fault because he wasn't skillful enough to actually, as we say, handle her, right?
right, right,
And
right.
that's what they mean. It took me a long time to realize what they mean by handling means, right?
Mhm,
It's not about it's not about the job. It's not about the money. It's not about the household. Handle her is handle her emotionally.
mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
I think
with,
in his
unpaid.
mhm. Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. No, go ahead, Marcus.
No, I was gonna say in his particular case, because this guy I'm talking about, he's
Hmm.
extremely intelligent, and again, he can do it, but it began to become
Yes.
yeah, a tyrant. And
Hmm.
again, that's the look on his face is like, he's it's like you're about to lift some weights.
Yes.
Hmm.
You
Yes.
understand what I'm saying? And I would watch him do and say the things that we would attribute to, carrying emotional labor.
Hmm.
But
Mhm.
he did it out of obligation. But
Yeah.
then, and some days you feel like a nut, and some days you don't. There'd
Yeah.
be days
Right.
where she'll walk in and do that, and again, it'll be more obvious than other times that he was not in the mood to deal with that. Again,
Yeah.
Hmm.
multiple times I've seen this happen with him. He's a good guy, and he
Hmm.
attempted to do it, but like I said,
She was
after a
too
while,
much.
it becomes
Yeah.
heavyweight, man.
Yeah. She
Well,
was
and
too much.
and especially if you don't establish any type of reciprocity, and most men
Hmm.
don't know how to say, "This is
Exactly.
what I need in order
Hmm.
for me to do this, to play this
Hmm.
role, to provide you
Hmm.
this type of labor. This is what I need." So you end up feeling drained because you're not getting something you need. But we don't often frame it that way because we don't often even know how to identify this as a
And
need.
and women get initially they get upset about you asking for it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
Yeah.
yeah.
expected. Yeah, but
So
here's
you're weak.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the other side to it too. If you go to counseling, especially
Mm-hmm.
as a couple, what you find is that much of it has been so gynofocal in terms of how much many of these people are trained, that
Mm-hmm.
what you'll often hear from a counselor is a shaming of sorts about how you need to better listen and
Mm-hmm.
provide more emotional labor for her. Right?
Yeah.
It's often a very kind of one-sided dynamic
Yeah. And,
that,
and
that that's at play.
and one thing they don't tell you, and I had to find out, and when I counseled, even though I have no license, right? What they don't tell you is how to do it.
Mm,
They never give you because they're trying to tell you how to do it, how a woman would do it, and a man cannot do it the way um, that a woman does it. In fact, I had to uh, counsel my niece was having problems with her husband with the exact same thing, and I had to counsel as a man how to do it, how to
mm,
skillfully do it, and how to meet her husband in the middle.
mhm.
And hell, that was 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and once I told her how to do it, I counseled her a few more times, and guess what? She hasn't asked me about it since. She's
Mhm.
got skillful at doing it, and her and her husband just as happy.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the crux of what we're getting at. There's a social expectation that men provide a role that we're not taught how to do, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not even discussed that it's needed or required. But
Mm-hmm.
we're measured and judged against whether or not we do it proficiently. And
Mm-hmm.
then on top of that, there's no reciprocity that's
Mm-hmm.
framed in response. So women expect it, and they're,
Yeah.
as you said, even offended at the idea
Well, yeah, yeah,
of
yeah.
having to do something in response.
You're not a good CompuServe if you can't do it, man.
Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
That's part of being a CompuServe, man. Everything is designed for her pleasure and her needs.
You're a ribbed condom. Huh?
You want me to be a surf man?
With a vibrator on the end. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, man.
Well, so let me finish the last three on the list. So we got
Okay.
number five, and anticipating her needs for her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
that goes to the example I gave in the original post. And there's, I'm sure, a million other ways we can interpret that. It, what either one of you think?
Oh, the biggest thing, and I hate it, right? I
always.
hate it. Okay, for a birthday, Christmas, or anything like that, man, getting her a gift, okay? And and you're supposed to know without her saying anything, giving you a hint, nothing, exactly what gift to get her, and she's gonna be disappointed if you're wrong, because you're supposed to get her.
That's why they get nothing from me. Let me tell you. Because listen. I rather be wrong for free than wrong for applause. You know.
Wrong
See-
for free.
You know what I'm saying? Man, that number five, man. That could go on forever, man.
oh yeah.
Are you
Mm-hmm.
continue if you gonna continue? Because
Mm-hmm.
I
Oh,
got
go ahead.
lit.
Go
I
ahead.
Yeah,
got lit. You
go
you got
ahead.
to know what she likes sexually. You got
Yes.
you got when you go to the restaurant, you got to order her food and just
Yes.
go. You got to know what movie she like. You got to
Yes.
know where the itch on her back is when you
Yes.
touch it. Like,
Yes.
yo, hey man, look, we going all night, man. We going all night, man. You don't want to do it. Go to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Go to number six because we be
Yeah,
stuck
yeah,
on
yeah, yeah. The look on your face when she walks in the house. Yeah,
five.
whether pick up her mood when you walk in the house, whether she's having a good day or bad day. Yeah, and,
Oh man,
yeah. Oh man, it could go on forever. Yeah.
and
yeah,
and,
points,
and
man.
Grade I nine said what I was going to point to in response to the whole gift giving thing. What men get in return, and I talked about this coming up
Oh
on
yeah.
Christmas, is there's no reflection, there's no forethought.
Mm-hmm.
You might get a tie, that costs $5, if that, but you're expected to provide all kinds of fantastical,
Yeah.
address all kind of fantastical desires, and
Yeah.
man. And that even happens often when you meet one for the first time. You know what I mean? You have to come
Yeah.
up and say something that's just interesting and different from anything
Yes.
you've heard.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So
The one thing. Yeah. That's how come players know. Just out of just out of practice, right? They can they can channel her and they can get her. And the biggest thing want to attract a woman is when you get her. when you get her emotionally and
Mhm.
psychologically, you just get her without her saying anything. That is
Mhm.
the biggest turn on for a woman.
Right.
Yeah. If you and I'm laughing because I've done this several times. If you
I know you have.
You
if
know.
you if you quiet long enough, if you let her talk enough, that's what it is. Hey, brothers, all the brothers in the chat, you shut up long enough, let her talk,
Yes. Let her
let
talk.
her talk. Yeah, do
Right.
tell. Then
Right.
Uh-huh.
everything else seems like magic because she
Right.
just
Yeah.
Right.
told you.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
just told you. You just gotta be quiet. It's long enough. I
Yeah.
had
But
to learn this very long, very young. You just be quiet.
it's still emotional labor, man.
It is.
It is.
I used to
It
take
is.
written notes. I used to take written notes. What kind of wine she drinks, where she
Hmm.
likes to go. I
Hmm.
used to have written notes, and when I would do it later, she'd be like, "Oh my God, you remembered!"
Hmm.
But it was still work that I had to
Hmm.
do,
Hmm.
and it was never acknowledged in terms of but it was an expectation still.
Yeah. It is. And, a very good conquer surf there, sir.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was.
Hey,
But let me see. All right, so number 6, supporting her ego and insecurities.
Hmm.
I'm not good at that. I am when I want to be.
All
I'm not good at that.
right, what's up, BGS?
I'm the same way. I'm good at it, but I don't always want to do it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. I better off saying that. Yeah,
Unless the you know unless there's a fee involved, I can be bought. Okay, yeah, if you want to hire me for the job, and that's what I got to do on a constant basis, then guess what? I got to get some kind of reciprocation. Okay,
yeah,
got to give me something. Okay, I just can't do it, just because you want me to do it.
yeah. Hey, look. I was on the phone with my a friend of mine. He has a girl, a woman that he grew up with, and she's
Hmm.
going through issues with her husband. So they called me, right? They called me. I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to be Dr. Phil, right?
Yep, yep.
Ever since then, I've been getting phone calls from this person. And again, this is a person that never met. I don't know what she looks like. No disrespect to her, but like, all these I was on the phone yesterday. When
Hmm.
you hit me, Doc, I was on the phone
Uh-huh.
4 hours
Wow.
yesterday,
Wow.
trying to, deal with this woman's issues with her husband who's cheating on her. And I wanted to
Hmm.
mention this earlier, and the story's too long to tell here,
Hmm.
but the whole time I'm doing this, I'm like, what do you look like? Right?
Hmm.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking like, is what am I doing this for?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like you better be attractive,
Why?
right? For me to be doing this for you. Like, okay, on the strength of my man, I'm trying to, but 4 hours, man. It got dark.
Yeah.
He
So
said he
why is
got
she?
her.
Yeah, yeah. Why is she calling you though? I mean, is she your friend or what?
Because like you said already, it's a non-sexual
Oh, relationship with her. Okay.
yeah, so I don't know what she looks like, and she's getting this attention from me that she's not getting from her dude.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And it's engaging.
Yeah.
This is what they tell me. It's engaging. It's engaging
Hmm.
conversation.
Yeah, it
So
is. Yeah.
and I'm giving you 4 hours, and I had to tell her, look, I gotta go. I had to say that a few times, and then I had to
Hmm.
really get off the phone. And
Hmm.
but yeah, man, it I didn't want to talk to anyone else after this.
Mm.
After I got off that conversation,
Hmm.
I didn't want to get on the internet. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was done. My
Hmm.
interactions for the day, my human interaction was done
Yeah.
for 4 hours. It's like we saying here. This is work, and this is work for someone who I've never physically met. There's no sexual benefit. I'm not being paid. I don't have a 1-900 number, which I should
Hmm.
get one. and
Hmm.
and all of these other things. So like again, there's no there's no benefit. But again, I put in work yesterday,
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And I felt it. It was physically. I was done. I felt
Yeah.
like the guy in the picture that the doc posted on Facebook. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Hit your head roll to the side,
Yeah.
cause and you would have had it done 8 if you had allowed it to go on.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my
That's,
goodness.
that's how come they say a lot of women say I can be mean, right? Because after you heard it so many times, you cut right through it and you start reading her. That's why I always tell guys it's really important to get in touch with your female side, not so you actually become feminine, actually interpret what she's saying, and uh, and a lot of times if you get in touch with that, you become skillful at it, you actually shortstop a lot of that stuff. I said, okay, yeah, I get what you're saying. This is what you're feeling. This is why you're feeling it, and this is what's going on. And
I said,
their mouths will just drop open.
hey, Doc. That's
Hmm.
exactly what I told the girl in the conversation. You remember that, right?
What's that?
Yeah,
When she was telling me how she was feeling. I said, I understand how you feel, but
hmm
that's not what's happening.
right,
He
right,
said it
right,
that verbatim.
right.
Right.
That
Yeah,
verbatim.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Verbatim
That's what,
is in the reply section. I said that, and
w- w-
and and she clicked. She put the heart on it.
yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right?
Because I've Doc has probably seen me do this for years, right? And I learned this like 30 some odd years ago with actually talking to Carolyn May. She's actually a spiritual guru, especially for women, right? And
Hmm.
she says words are like switches, right? You like an invocation, right? So think and feel are two different switches on two different parts of your brain.
Right.
Okay, and how when you use them, it actually invokes something, right? So
Yeah.
saying I know how you feel invokes her feeling center, right? It makes them calm down. So
Hmm.
that's why words are important. That's why I always say when you talk to a woman, you have to start with I understand how you feel, right? Um, uh, 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 for a man, the most important thing is for a man, somebody, a woman, or anybody saying, "I know what you're talking about." In other words, I know what you're thinking.
Hmm.
I know how you're thinking. I know what your thoughts are. So I know what you're talking about. I know what you're thinking. Okay, I understand your thoughts or something like that. That's a
Hmm.
different kind of connotation because you're actually invoking a different kind of switch. So depend. So in other words, I always tell women, uh, don't if you're gonna talk to a man, start with I know what you're thinking
Hmm.
instead
Mm-hmm.
Well,
of I know what you're feeling.
this is something I end up dealing with in my classroom, and
Mm-hmm.
usually I end up challenging it because what I find from
Mm-hmm.
male and female students now, and I'd say in the last decade more than any other time,
Mm-hmm.
the beginning of answers that my
Mm-hmm.
students will give me to questions is I
Mm-hmm.
feel.
Right.
I
Yeah.
feel. And I
Mm-hmm.
have problems with this because if I say, okay, what exactly did, Kenneth Clark say in chapter 6 about
Mm-hmm.
X, Y, and Z? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I feel. Now
Mm-hmm.
here's where it goes. I feel that Clark really wanted us to do X, Y. No, no. It's not about what you feel about what you think he said. What did he say?
Mm-hmm.
That's where my pushback becomes because what I find is that I feel
Mm-hmm.
becomes an escape hatch for
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
accountability on one level,
Yeah.
and it becomes a way to not actually have to meet any type of standard.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes whatever I want it to be in the moment, so I don't have to be accountable.
Right.
No, what did he say?
Mm-hmm.
Before we get to how you feel, what
Mm-hmm.
was actually said? Now,
Think
I'm
Mm-hmm.
and
talking
feel.
about that as an example in a
Yeah.
classroom, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously it applies to other things,
Right.
what I mean, in other types of conversations. But
It's
to
it's
me,
it's
I
an
feel is a get out of jail free card. It's
it's an
really,
invocation, and that's how because and we have a feminized educational system, and most of them are actually female teachers. That's the way they want their students to respond to them. So they're actually taught. Even the guys are taught to use that language and actually turn on that emotional switch. They don't
and
want you to interpret the thought process of what was actually said, which is solid and actually literal. They want you to get your emotional understanding of what was said.
right.
And sometimes it does give you an escape hatch, but that's the way that they're taught to actually approach things.
Mhm. Well, the last one on the list
Hmm.
is number 7, and this is why I said that these types of tasks and this type of emotional work hit
Hmm.
differently for Black men than other groups of men, because at
Hmm.
the end of the day, we're still dealing with a society that is not necessarily that is extremely hostile to Black folk in particular. So I said the
Hmm.
blackness's weight on emotional work that we need to not only conquer white supremacy but make her feel safe while doing it.
Mm-hmm.
right? White oppression and our response, institutional weight on our gender behavior. What I'm saying there is that when we talk about this emotional work, it does apply to the larger society and how we are expected to negotiate that as men
Mm-hmm.
in relationships. So I'll give you an example. I once dated an activist, right? And she wanted me to go to a couple of her demonstrations. And the interesting part about it was the police were getting, according to her, confrontational with, the activists. The expectation on me as a black man, right, was to
Mm-hmm.
protect her from the police. And it was never spoken aloud. It was
Mm-hmm.
just an expectation that I protect her from the police at a demonstration,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what happens to me.
Mhm.
Right.
And so when I step back from that and just look at it, I'm saying now the expectation alone is really what I'm talking about here in terms of emotional work. The making her feel safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But whatever happens or doesn't happen is on me.
Mm-hmm.
Whether I want to even go to this demonstration or not is irrelevant. It's an
Mm-hmm.
expectation. Any thoughts about that? The relationship between blackness and this emotional labor.
Um, it's become unreasonable. I think lately. In
Mm,
other words, um, it removes them from responsibility. I'm supposed to die and fall on my sword for you.
mhm,
And
Hmm.
what do you do in response? What, you gonna cry for me after my death?
mm, mm,
I realize that there are obligations that black men seem to have, um, that are like duties of race or race loyalty that women do not.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of a thing as far as that's a belief in our culture that women have to do because or an obligation that they have to us by virtue of us being black or them being black.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes from whether it be protecting, providing, the list goes on.
mhm,
um I don't see women told that they have to uh be of service in any way to strange black men.
mm,
You
mm,
understand what I'm saying? For it's hard to get them to be of service to men they're familiar with,
Mm-hmm.
mhm,
right? But to strange black men just off the virtue of them being black women,
mm.
right? I mean, BGS, you would be able to tell me if such a thing in our culture has ever existed, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your partners. For men they didn't know, and because you have had a closer community. Okay,
yeah,
that that all parts of the community was expected to step in
Mm,
and kind of fight against the suppression because it was so that daunting. Okay, um, I remember my uncle. Okay, a black male. Got into a fight with the white farmer. Beat up, beat the shit out of his son. They had a fight,
mhm,
and as soon as he came home, my grandmother packed his bag. Said, "You got to go, because you can't
mm.
stay here.
Yeah,
You can't stay here because later, the next day they came looking for him, and they weren't very nice to her
yeah.
because she didn't give him up. They weren't
Mhm,
very nice to her, and that was understood. Okay, that was understood back then. But especially since the '60s, we've lost that kind of sense of community and protection, and that it wasn't one of the things where men protected, looked out for the women. We looked out for each other.
mhm,
Okay, there's certain
yeah,
circumstances that men would fall on the sword for you. Okay, they would stand and face whatever oppression there was. They were expected to. By the same token, you were supposed to reciprocate that, just like my grandmother did for her son. Okay,
mhm,
she stood in for him. Okay, he was gone, and she was expected to give him up, and she didn't. Okay,
mhm.
and they weren't very nice. Okay, and she knew he had to go. He couldn't stay there because they were going to come in, and disappear him,
Yeah.
and so but that was expected back then. Okay, but sometimes a husband come in, he's done something, he had to send her away. Okay, she could get beaten, she could get raped. The thing is, she was expected to stand in for him.
Mm,
Okay, And she understood that was her job, because by the same token, if they came looking for her, or they came looking for the family at the house, he's expected to give his life.
Yeah.
So it was just understood, and we've lost that,
Mm.
in my opinion.
Now I'm gonna post. I'm gonna post the link, and it's gonna be fairly short. I want us to get do. We can do up to about an hour, but I want to keep the broadcast to no more than 3 hours. And to my guests, I hope you guys will stay, but I understand if you have other commitments. So it's all on you. But I would love to have you present in the discussion as people come up. And for those who are interested in coming up, I'm interested in a particular type of emotional labor that either you have had to provide or someone you know. That's really what I'm focused on. I don't want the conversation to drift too far because we'll be talking about everything under the sun. But I'm posting the link on Facebook and on YouTube. And if you want to come up, talk about the type of emotional labor you've been witness to or been expected to provide, we can have some dialogue along those lines, at least for the next hour. And if not, we can just kind of close out. So it's up to you guys what you want to do. Make sure you hit the like button, support the show, donate, you know, subscribe, join, all that good stuff, and make sure you do so for my two guests' channels as well. Keep it 100. Support his channel and definitely support BGS Ibmore.
Where you at as far as subs, Marcus?
What on here?
No, on your channel.
Oh, I'm about
On,
500.
yeah, come on, y'all. Let's
Yeah.
hit the link, go over, and we got what we got almost 300 people watching. Hey, hit the link and go over and hit a subscribe. Let's get them up to 7 at least.
Yeah. They say smash that like button and
Yeah.
subscribe.
Smash that subscribe. Even if you unsubscribe 3 months later, let's boost those numbers up, okay?
Right.
Hey, man, I'll give you some entertainment.
Help help a brother out, okay?
Okay. So we got some people starting to come in. I was talking before I bring them in, just real quick. I was talking to BJS and I were talking the other day about this, and when I mentioned emotional labor, he started talking about movies where we saw examples of this. And there was one movie that we talked about last year, or it was really more of a series, Lovecraft Country,
Lovecraft, yes.
Where she brought her husband back from the dead to download into
Her frustrations.
Yeah, her frustration. So this kind of thing we're talking about, we've all seen it, we've experienced it. We just often didn't name it. But here we got a brother in here named Shaquille. Shaquille, can you hear us?
Hey,
Oh,
what's up, guys?
he's on a job. Oh, this must be hot. He's working,
Yeah,
man. Well, you got to get in. Go ahead, brother.
and
Get in.
hopefully my supervisor doesn't come. But look,
Go ahead. Get in.
brother Todd, well, shit. Anyway, I'll tell you about. Give you all my appreciations after. Check this out. Now, I'm with a young lady, and I've been with her for about 3 years now. When I initially got with her, I didn't really care about her money. I was about 25, let's just say 26, and I was really just starting my manhood. Now at 29, I could say like I'm restarting again. But I wasn't considering, what a woman should be in a wife. What should a woman do, or attributes of a woman that makes her a good wife, this, that, and the third. But as I'm, getting a little bit older, I've been thinking more and more about it. So now I'm having this conversation with my girl, and she works in corporate America, so she makes, I'm telling you, like $89,000 a year, and
Yeah,
she's
okay.
20 fucking 5 years old.
Yeah.
She's seeing $2,400 every 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
here I am having to keep up. I have two jobs right now. I sleep 3 hours a day. You feel me? Just to be able to, really survive, because I deal with mental health and all that, but that's another story. But
Okay.
one time I asked her, like, yo, miss, how much would I really have to make for you to feel comfortable? Because a lot of them, they want you to make what they make or more. So I'm like, listen, she said $200,000. Now I live in New York City. $200,000 is, I mean, $100,000 ain't shit really. $200,000, you probably get it. You probably have a good life. But I work at Home Depot as of right now, and I work for Border Education in Brooklyn in New York.
Mm.
Okay.
$200,000 is, and I have no college degree, no certifications. That's what's up, my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So now, after she said this $200,000 remark,
Mm-hmm.
it's a joke. It becomes a joke.
Mm.
Okay.
She was just throwing a number out.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I hear that and I'm like, yo, miss, so is it fair that, I guess I have to have this $200,000 loom over me the entire relationship, thinking that I have to get there in order for you to be comfortable.
Yeah. Well,
And I'll
she.
say this last thing.
Okay.
Um, once I say that, it becomes this thing. Well, are you sure you are willing to do these things for me?
Mm.
I now get guilt tripped into feeling guilty, like because I'm questioning what it is that she wants.
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
feel me?
Yeah.
So I'm finding really creative ways to get information out of her now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I put my foot down the other week, where every other week she's telling me that she's like upset about I'm rude because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't buy her a patty the other day when we went to the Haitian store. And it
Okay.
becomes this whole big charade. So I told her, I don't
Okay.
like that you go from 0 to 100 for every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel as if you don't appreciate what I do. You take me for granted. And then next time it happens, I'm putting you on ice.
Okay.
Okay.
She ain't like that. She ain't like that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, it doesn't
So
happen. Don't matter. It don't matter what you
as
like.
of right now,
Mm-hmm.
I feel you.
Mm-hmm.
As of right now, I think I'm in control
Yeah.
of the situation.
Okay.
But I really do appreciate conversations like this because we don't really have this. And I saw y'all on, and I'm like, yo, I definitely gotta hop on. I definitely
Well,
Yeah.
appreciate you guys.
Yeah.
I
If you
appreciate
can
you.
give me any feedback.
Okay. The feedback, and I experienced this by a chick that is actually engaged to a chick that was actually gorgeous, right? Looked like just like Pam Grier, right?
Hmm.
She used to
Oh
be around
Lord.
guys that made a lot of money, right? And
Hmm.
uh, and she said basically a lot of the same things. And my thing is okay, you can have that kind of guy. Thing is, why are you with me?
Yeah.
Facts.
Yep.
Because
Facts.
evidently you're with me for a reason. It has nothing to do with money because I don't make the kind of money that you need. Why are you with me? Let's focus on why you're with me and what do I provide already that you came to me and got with me for. Okay,
Absolutely.
let's focus on that. Forget about the 200,000. Okay, I may get it, I may not. Right, but you're with me now. Why are you with me now? And you have to
Absolutely.
focus on that. Let's focus on what you like about me and let's expand upon that. Not what I don't have, because there's a reason that you're
Absolutely.
with me. Yeah.
We're gonna do
Absolutely.
this. We're gonna have one person come up at a time, so I want to kind of hit it brief. Go ahead, Marcus. I know you
No
got it.
problem.
Oh, he got some. Yeah, he's from New York, so yeah, he got it.
Yeah.
What's up, Marcus?
Brooklyn, son. You know what I
You know
mean?
how it is. East New York.
Flatbush, baby. You already
East
know.
New York. I'm in Flatbush too. We in Flatbush too.
I was
Okay.
born in. Go ahead,
All
fellas.
right. So, I mean, all of the stuff we've been talking about, all this, emotional support and things like that.
Oh, that's
Women,
yeah.
they tend to talk about money and comparing us to the other person with the money and all this material items and things like that. But again, it's just like we've been talking about all night, man. What they don't tend to value, and you'll hear women say this, like, let's say they were with a guy who gave them all this emotional support, and then they break up with him, right? Because he didn't
Hmm.
have the income and this and that and the other. They regret that later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
They regret it later because the guy with the income ain't he's not he's not sitting for those conversations and dealing with all that. Well,
Facts. Facts.
he done did enough
Facts.
favor outside. He's like, look,
Facts.
I gave you that burger bag. I'm not about to sit here and listen to your problems.
Facts. Facts.
And
Facts.
can't both.
Right.
Can't
Absolutely.
both. So
Look, brother, I don't want you to get in trouble at work. So all I'll say
Yes.
is,
Yes. Yes. Thank you, fellas.
all
I
I'll
really
say real,
appreciate it. All right.
no, real quick, all I'll say, brother, is when you establish that boundary, do not be surprised if she leave and come knocking back on your door. That's all I
I
gotta say.
hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
Take
I
it easy.
appreciate it, fellas.
All right,
no
man.
doubt.
Thank you. Peace.
Peace.
No
Peace.
doubt. Peace.
All right. Let me see. We got Rod P. Rod, are you there?
Yes, sir. You hear me?
Yeah. Okay. What's good?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So Try to make this as quick as possible. I had an ex about.
Oh, you
You
there?
still? Yeah, you still?
Yeah, you're
Yeah, we
borging
hear
it
you.
just a bit. You're borging
Yeah.
just a bit.
Oh,
Okay, you might have to go out and come back in.
okay. What about now? Can you hear me now?
A
We
lot
can hear
better.
you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Oh, wait. I had this ex. We've been apart for about a year now, and when the relationship was on the rocks, she kept saying I wasn't. She kept complaining about me not being emotionally available,
Yep.
emotionally available,
Yep.
and me looking at it now, it boils down to, and I'm looking at her. She had both parents in the home, and I
Mm-hmm.
looked at it. View her mom. Did not view her
Mm-hmm.
mom as warm, soft, feminine, and very individual. She got a lot of her feminine, I guess, from her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
so, me looking at it in retrospect now, it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
I
He's
think
got
we lost him.
Oh,
connection
yeah.
issues. Yeah.
Bounced out.
Connection issues. Yeah. No, he
Yeah.
didn't bounce out. He lost connection.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But
Yeah.
okay. So maybe he'll come back in. Let me get G serotonin in here.
Hey, G.
Hey, what's up, BGS? How you doing, Dr. T? How
All
you
good.
doing, Big Bro? I'm subscribed to Keep It 100. I,
Right.
I never knew his name. I'll be listening to him, though.
That's what's up.
Appreciate it.
He
Appreciate it.
be talking. He be talking a whole lot of shit. So yeah, you gotta be prepared.
You know?
Yeah, I'll be listening. I'll be listening to everybody. I'll be having a lot of free time on my hands. But the number one emotional thing that I have been running into with a lot of our
Hmm.
sisters is, and it's been really the cause of the end of, I'm really going monk mode this year. I'm really stepping off, is that I always seem to get in relationships with these women and they expect for me to be like, they have higher expectations for me with their children than they have for the children's father. It's a
Mm,
weird thing. Like,
mm,
I'd be like, all right, I try my hardest to be fair and I'm always honest and fair and I don't treat the kids bad. But it
Hmm.
always creates this weird dynamic with you, the children.
right.
Like a woman came to me and was like my son thinks about you like you his father. And I was like,
Hmm.
what? Like, I'm not his father. He knows his father.
Hmm.
And it was too much for me. And I couldn't
Mm,
handle that emotionally, because I want to have my own children. Not I want to
Okay.
deprive their father,
Hmm.
even no matter how much. I don't know what the man is going through.
Hmm.
I know what I observed in the years where I dealt with them. And I
right.
dealt with it with two women back to back. It's just
Right.
like,
You
then they
you know
hold you to these ridiculous
it,
standards. Like,
it's something, it's old school, and it's something that guys like me were trained to do. Okay. It's fairly standardized. You're supposed to step into a father's role.
Hmm.
Okay, and it's
Right.
understood. Okay, whatever family you pick up, that's part of the contract. You step into a father's role. You're not the father, but you're expected to actually play the
Right.
role as a dad. Okay, and I've done it for women, and men have done it for my children, and uh, and sometimes you got to sit down and have a powwow with the father. Hey, okay, they're in my house. Okay, I got to administrate it. I got to do a dad role. I got to administrate this, and I need some of your guidance. I need your some of your what you do like, what you don't like, and how far I can actually do this, because you're expected to step into a father's role, which is not easy. Okay, if you've never done it, it's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's what they're expecting. So it's not that they're expecting you to replace his dad, but they're expecting you to, since they're in your household, you're supposed to run your household like a father,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. You
no,
there,
I
G?
know it does. It seems like I'm 32 years old now.
You can't get into it, man. If you're
Yeah,
not,
and it
if
seems like it's exceedingly harder
it
Yeah.
is
to
hard.
find women with no children that's black, that's in our age range. Like,
They're
and,
there.
and the
They're
brothers
there.
always get on me like, bro, you got to go do this. And I just can't let it go, man. It's something
Y-
in my soul where I just be with sisters. And
Yeah.
Well,
The women, the better looking a woman is, and the more socially available she is, she's probably going to have kids, especially when you get around 30. Okay, very few women that look good, and and actually are social and not socially awkward, okay, very few of them do not have kids. They're normally chosen. They've normally been knocked off, either been married or at least have a long-term relationship where there's a kid involved. And basically, if you don't want to, a lot of women that don't have kids are actually, those are the fives and the fours that are leftovers. They're smart, they're okay. They may be socially awkward, but those are leftovers. So for the kind of women that you want, especially at 30, you're probably gonna find them more retreads than not.
But you know,
It's
I would
just
all I would
go
what
ahead.
I would also say
Mm,
and I've talked about this before. I
mm,
grew up thinking that
mm-hmm.
being with a woman with kids was pretty much, a given.
Standard, yeah.
I pretty much planned for it. By the time I was 16, I just figured whatever woman I got serious about was more than likely to have kids. This is the first time period in my lifetime where I've heard men actually saying, you know what, I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. What I am saying is it is entirely okay. It is entirely acceptable for you to opt out of that
Mm-hmm.
if you so choose. And there
Mm-hmm.
are alternatives for that if you so choose. But I'm just saying it used to be almost kind of an obligation that Black men were expected to provide. Again, another type of emotional labor on top
Mm-hmm.
of a financial one,
Mm-hmm.
because you can become tied to child support around kids that aren't even yours. That can
Mm-hmm.
happen. So, but I would just put that out there, brother. If it's not something you want to do, you are well within your rights to step back from it and draw a boundary. And there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but
Those damn
Marcus,
things, Doc. I'm gonna let somebody else come up, man. You guys have a good night.
all right, man, you too.
All right.
Marcus, I don't know if you had a chance to catch that, but
I,
um,
I caught some of it. I mean, I don't. I say this, man. I feel like a lot of what you're saying is going on now. It comes from a movement to discourage women from having these children out of wedlock and pushing us out of involvement and things of that nature.
mhm,
I think that movements are good, right?
mhm,
It aside from discouraging them from using the welfare state against us. When you do these sorts of things, you're kind of enabling like dysfunction to a degree,
mhm,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that what guys are trying to, at least I can't speak for everyone, but this is how I see it when I hear guys say, don't date single mothers and et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's an attempt to discourage the outcomes and again, the blaming that is done on us and et cetera. But you know, to bring it to this discussion, yeah, man, to take that on in most cases, is thankless. So sometimes the children don't even appreciate it because you're not their dad. You
Mm-hmm.
know
mhm,
what I mean? Not all the time, but a lot of time it just happens. If you take it on, just understand that that's a reality of it. I'm like you. I don't tell them to do or not to do, but if you choose to do, just understand that what you think you might or should get from it, you might not. That's
mhm.
it.
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't know how often I've heard a man's, emotional needs or whatever else prioritized in that dynamic. It
No.
always became about what he needs to do for her, for the children. I never hear anything about what needs to
You
happen for him.
you never enter if you're not getting anything out of it. The only reason you deal with a woman with children is because you're going to get more out of her than she would normally get out of a single woman without kids. If you can't get that, don't even enter into it.
Yeah. Let me. Rod P came back in. I want to give him a second, and we got several other people in there we need to get to. So, Rod, can you hear us? Rod. Okay.
Right.
All right. I'll pull him down and leave him there and see if he comes back. He might be tied into something else. Let me get in Adam. Adam McTowell, you there?
Hey,
Oh
how's it going, brothers?
my God.
Adam, what's up, Adam?
What's the word?
Chilling. How's it going?
Oh well, man. Give us some feedback on this emotional labor. What you got?
Well, what I find fascinating about it is, not just how it's applied to relationships. Well, that's a huge part of it.
Right.
But you spoke about it earlier about how, even just with random women, whether in if you're talking about a post on Facebook, um, in the particular case with Marcus, how he dealt with the woman there, but we've seen it in other posts where if they post something about this organization or such and such is doing something for Black women, oh, you better go in there and say something positive. You better clap and applaud, because if you
Right.
say anything to the opposite, oh, it's all hell and break loose. That type of expected support
Hmm.
from men in general, but particularly Black men, is an expression of emotional labor.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe in another regard, that when it comes to the workplace, particularly with an office environment, when men have to work with women, particularly Black men with Black women, there's almost this unspoken rule of, if I say something, you're going to back me up, right? Because I'm a Black woman,
Mm.
you know,
Hmm.
and that's
Mm.
kind of, and if you don't do it, there's going to be consequences because you see these people every day. But even if your job doesn't necessarily interact with individuals, if once you start saying hi and things like that, oh, etc., and you have conversations with people, when you withdraw that, that type of affirmation, right? It's almost like if you, it could cause problems. I could give a perfect example. When I was working with this government agency, I can't specifically say which one, but I was working with a government agency in New York, and after a while, I said, you know what? I'm tired of dealing with this woman's crap, because she's sitting in front of me every day. She wanted to tell me about something I didn't care about. So I moved my seat.
Uh-huh.
Well, within 6 hours, she sent detectives in the office to come find me,
What?
right? Yeah, she sent detectives. Now, these are detectives that work within the agency. She sent detectives, and the detectives were like, hey, we heard you moved your seat. I'm like, yeah, I moved my seat. It's like, so what's going on?
Right.
Like, I moved from this place to this place. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, so they said, oh, okay, that's fine. So they went back, they disappeared. So I'm working on my thing. Then my supervisor shows up. It's like, hey, all these people are calling, like the deputy commissioner. It's like, what the hell's going on? What'd you get the deputy commissioner involved with this shit? I just moved my seat. It's like, but because I was known in the office for being a person to go around and be nice to people, speak to people about their day, how things are going.
Hmm.
Oh, and the person sitting in front of me, oh yeah, I live where you live, and we live upstate, and all this stuff is nice, and blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
So when I wasn't there, when I moved, she felt some type of way.
Yeah. She couldn't function.
You were
And we.
providing. You were likely providing a resource you didn't even know you were really providing.
Hmm. Hmm.
This.
He,
Exactly.
no, he knew he was providing. That's how he moved. How come he moved his seat? He got tired of providing it.
Well,
No,
he
he knew
might
he
have.
was doing. Yeah.
He might have, but I don't think he knew how valued it
How
was.
valuable it was. Yeah.
She sent the detectives after.
Yeah, when the detectives showed up, that's when I said, okay, something ain't right. I saw the email chain, because I wasn't even paying attention to my email. The email chain, I'm like, what the hell did I do?
Hey, Doc. You know you got to clip this, right? You got to clip this. You got to clip this and put this on Facebook. You know that, right? Hey, like they say, like they say, you cannot make this shit up.
Yeah.
The emotional labor from men is a highly coveted resource, and
Yes.
Yeah.
the final thought I would say is I think it can become problematic when there's multiple women vying for that same limited
Oh
resource.
Lord. Oh Lord. Don't even
Mm-hmm.
start talking about it. Oh Lord.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I mean
Hey,
that's all I got. So,
Adam, don't go yet. I want to point out to Doc Hassan that you were one of the other guys in that discussion on Facebook. That was, hey, man, said, oh, the other guy was disrespectful.
Not
That
once.
that was him. He was one of the guys, two other guys.
yeah,
You,
leave it to yourself from New York to put me on blast, right?
hey, you notice the MGTOW at the end of his name, okay?
Yeah, yeah, he was the other guy.
And like I said, that's what we do, baby.
Amen.
All right, brother.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming on up, man.
Thanks
Yeah,
for having me,
yeah.
brother.
You gotta save the mark the time note on that one, Doc. You gotta clip that one out, okay?
yeah.
All
You cannot make this up, man. You can't make it up.
That's the boys for you.
right,
All
Adam.
right, brothers. Have a good one.
You too.
Peace.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. This like Harriet, man. You got to send out the slave catchers, okay?
Y'all know who it is. We got Ian up in here. What's
Uh
up, man?
oh. He's got the samurai out. Okay, go ahead, Ian. On your left.
What's good, man?
Wow. Now listen, that's a tough one to follow right there. That's a tough one. God Almighty. But Dr. Hassan spoke on that. That's basically that's sexual harassment. Basically, is what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and and
that's
I'm
what it is.
glad.
Using the
I'm
authority to
I
get.
was going to ask him, was she white?
well, yeah. She wouldn't even have to be. But
Wow.
Ian, you're so on point with that. And if anybody ever has a question about what sexual harassment is,
Hmm.
reverse the genders in your head and picture it. So,
Okay.
a woman moves her desk, and you send detectives and supervisors after her to question why she did it. You tell
Yeah.
me if you would end up in
Yeah.
HR or not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one point,
Yeah.
Ian. But go
That's
ahead, man.
exactly what that
What's
is.
your thoughts on
You know,
this?
I was on Clubhouse, right? While your show was going on, we was getting it back and forth, right?
Hmm.
And but okay, but this was previous on Clubhouse. I don't know why I've been on Clubhouse
Previously
lately,
on
but
Clubhouse.
there was this divester chick in the room.
Hmm.
She's
Okay.
telling us well, the whole room basically full of black females is basically saying that it's black male privilege not to accept this divester in the room who's basically reading a riot act and disrespecting and emasculating black men. So she's saying it's
Okay.
Okay.
black male privilege, heterosexual black male privilege, to not accept abuse, emotional abuse, right?
Okay.
Okay.
And that's typical of relationship with women in general. If you don't, that's what my ex-wife told me. My ex-wife told me she had two problems with me. She divorced me, and she said she had
All right.
two problems overall. She said that I thought she said she thought I was trying to be too perfect, and then she
Hmm.
said she did not like how I handled her negativity.
Hmm.
And that really
That's
underlies
interesting.
what's going on with them.
She didn't like how you handled her negativity. What she
her,
mean?
her negativity.
What her negativity, because
Right.
Hmm.
because I would always tell her, I'm like, yo, man, because in a lot of women, when I would call out the things that they were doing to me, their reaction wouldn't be like, okay, let me fix it. Their reaction is to argue and fight with me about it. You know what I'm saying? Not to be
Okay.
like, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay. 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 So instead of just kind of giving into it and giving it a pass, you would call it out.
Yes, I would call it out. And they had a
Okay.
problem. They always had a problem with that. They
Hmm.
felt that that was abusive, and especially if I really got detailed, they
Uh-huh.
really got in their feelings over that.
Wow. Okay.
That like there was one time I was praying before we went out, and I told my ex, this was a different ex. I said, man, I said, who does that? Right? I was in the middle of praying, right? And I'm like, it's like this only take a couple minutes. She's such in a hurry that she come in and basically interrupt my prayer, right? And act like it's more important to rush out than allowing me to have my time and my space with God. And I told her about
Okay.
that. I said, man, that's some heinous type stuff. And her response was, "Oh, I thought it was just some yoga that you was doing." I like, damn well that ain't no yoga I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? You've been with me all this time. That's part of my spiritual ritual. So she tried. Not only did she not apologize, she tried to downplay my relationship with God as being some kind of physical yoga. You know.
All right. All right. Now we got a few people I want to bring up here. So but appreciate you coming up, brother. Thank you, man.
All
And I,
right, hey, appreciate you guys, Marcus, BJS, Dr. Hassan, salute, Great Eye Nine. You killed
Oh,
that
you got
last one.
something.
You got to clip that shit.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Go ahead, Marcus. You want to say something before he goes?
well, before he goes, it's just Ian is part of my show, so Ian, you already know what it is. But it's amazing to me how black women have become so much like white people, where they're
Yes, I was just saying that.
where they're like any denial of accommodation to their entitlement is oppression.
Hmm.
They're oppressed.
Slight
Yeah,
deviation.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
oppressive to not accommodate their entitlement.
Right.
yeah, yeah. I
Like,
mean, pretty soon they're going to accuse of reckless eyeballing and we have to step off the sidewalk when they approach.
yeah, but it's just again, like his, his not not obeying, or like in his case, he didn't move when she was ready for him to move.
Hmm.
she said it was abusive.
Right.
Like it caused her some sort of allegedly some sort of emotional anguish or pain
Yeah.
because he wouldn't accommodate her in that way.
Right.
It's just I'm sitting here and I'm listening to this story and it's boggling my mind. But continue. Go ahead, man.
All right, man.
Ian, I'm gonna holler at you, man. You already know.
All
Yes,
right. Thanks,
sir.
Ian.
I appreciate you guys.
All right. Let's see. We got uneducated Lane. What's up? You hear?
They come in all kind of variety. Lanes come in all varieties, man.
Exactly, even
Oh,
uneducated. Peace to
man.
everyone. It's family. Good to get up here. I just wanted to kind of throw out there, other than wives, girlfriends, or sexual interest, our own family members that are females are emotional punching bags. Also, our
Mm,
Yes.
mothers, our sisters, our
Yes. Yes.
nieces.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Like
said that. Yeah.
I
Yeah. I mentioned that. Yeah.
yeah,
That.
yeah. Like I have a sister where anytime that she calls me and I see her name on the phone, I gotta
Mm-hmm.
pull over,
Mm-hmm.
go into a room. Like it is, I'm like I gotta get ready for it.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes all across the board.
Yeah.
So
She.
I just wanted to come up
Your,
here.
your sister ain't got no man, does she?
No, of course not.
Yeah. That's why. Yeah.
Of course
You.
not.
You're the fill-in. Okay. You're
Right.
the emergency card.
Well, and that's
And
go ahead.
no, go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say that's also the crux of the son husband, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You're providing an emotional presence on par with a man as a
Mm-hmm.
son,
Mm-hmm.
often in lieu of a man. So yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
emotional labor, and Marcus was talking about this in the early part of the show. The emotional labor, can come from family members, it can come from strangers in society, it can come from
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, but it's an
Mm-hmm.
expected role that you play, an
Mm-hmm.
expected amount of labor that you're supposed to give, and you damn sure better
Mhm.
not ask something for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a thing at all. So that's all I wanted to bring up, just real quick, because unfortunately I didn't catch the first part of the show. Dr. Johnson, is great meeting you. BGS, big fan, and keep it 100. I just subscribed to you, pushing you over to that 500, homie.
I
That's right.
appreciate that. I appreciate
All
it.
right,
All right,
all right,
brother.
guys.
Thanks a lot, man.
Peace.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody listening, please. Marcus, put your channel link into the chat. Go over and punch the button, right? Okay, push him over. There's almost 200 people watching. We can actually push the brother over at least 7.
Okay. We got the brother, champion, and savior. Can you hear us?
Woo!
Is that is that
He says the lipstick in the picture is real. It looks photoshopped to me.
Woo!
God damn it!
It's not
what's up, man?
Photoshop.
What's
Not only
going
is it
on?
what's up? Not only is it not Photoshop, it's different shades. But
Okay, chime in on this, man. What's the deal with this emotional labor? What have you seen?
um, I think black men don't value themselves very well,
Okay.
in my personal opinion. Because if you want to talk to me about some heavy shit, yeah, you're gonna have to buy me.
Damn. Damn.
My
You're gonna have
man,
to
my
you're gonna have
man.
to go to eat. You're gonna have to pay for gas. You're gonna do something.
Hmm.
I don't simp for free.
Oh,
Just
Hey,
that's my
man,
three parts right
oh,
there.
yeah. Do you know what I used to have that as a slogan on my Facebook, man? I don't simp for free.
and the
My
sad part
goodness.
One of
about
my
it, women
trademarks. Mm-hmm.
women tend to stay away from me. There's some who will be like, you know what? He gives good advice, but I gotta feed this motherfucker. So yeah,
Hmm.
or I gotta
I
buy
gotta feed it.
something. Like yeah, like hey, while I'm talking to you, can you go on Amazon and order me another controller for my PS4? Yeah, thank you.
Let me ask you something. Was there ever a time where you didn't demand or request anything for your emotional labor?
Of
And
course. This is
when you what made you start, and what was the reaction when you did?
it was like you drop a nuke on Hiroshima.
Mhm.
It was like a shock and appall, shock and awe. Like there have been Latin, and here comes Steel Team 6. Like oh, like
Hmm.
because they think you're supposed to get this all for free.
Yeah.
If I give you advice, that's considered my intellectual property.
Mhm.
So I'm going to be compensated. I don't.
Okay.
I don't really. Even with ex-girlfriends, they know the game. And I think when you start to value yourself as a man, forgive me because my nose is a little stuffed up,
Mm-hmm.
the game changes because they can't hit you with the same BS. Because all you got to do is tell them, go ask that last Negro. Oh,
Mm.
he doesn't know the answer. Okay, then you're gonna have to comply with my demands. And last time I checked, in the country of Falkland, we don't negotiate with terrorists. But
Okay. Okay.
but and when people say no, you probably don't. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. And it goes back into that emotional punching bag. Like my mom used to do it until I asked her, okay, what's the common denominator about your problems?
Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
Same questions. And she
Mhm.
says, well, I don't know. I said it would be you.
Mhm.
And she had to look at that and she's like, you know what, you're right.
Mm.
Back in
Okay.
the day, she'd be apprehensive, offended. But now she's like, no, you're right.
Right. Right.
And I think a lot of brothers, like I heard some people when they were in their 20s, and this is the reason why you need mentoring, because a lot of guys are expected to be men as soon as they graduate high school or turn 18. Hell, in
Mhm.
some cases, 16. How the hell
Right.
are you going to learn how to value yourself and how to approach women, how to conduct yourself in a business format if no one showed you?
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, brother. Appreciate you dropping the word.
All
You
right.
know. All right.
All right.
Um,
Well, just make sure you got the liquor state. And let me hold that sort of overs, by the way, Dad.
all right,
Right,
man. I
fellas.
appreciate you, brother.
Mm-hmm. Be easy. Bring beer.
Oh yeah. What's his channel name? I was going to ask him to shout out his
Oh,
channel.
Charles Faulkner.
Okay, he just put in
Ch-
his name. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
I'll
Charles
check out.
Faulkner. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Mm.
familiar with him.
The names be throwing me sometimes, but
Yeah.
y'all support Charles Faulkner's channel right here on YouTube. Next one up, we got Javon Thompson. Javon. Okay.
Yeah, can you hear
Javon.
me? I'm here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Can you
we
hear me?
hear you. Yeah. Give us something on this emotional labor, man. What do you think?
Um, for me, I could say when I was with my child's mother, that was like what was almost expected of me. Like every time she got off of work, she would want to come home and just complain about her problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I just had to, sit there and listen to it. Even though if I had a bad day, if I had something that was going on, and my personal thing, like it wasn't really an issue for her. She didn't really care. She didn't ask me how my day was. So
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like Green Gorilla says, it's like you have to be a obsequious sycophant. Just like whatever they need, whatever they want, you just have to be there and don't expect nothing in return.
Right.
So, I mean, now looking back in retrospect, it's and just like Officer Faulkner was saying, like we don't know how to value ourselves, so we don't set those boundaries. We don't,
Yes.
require things from our partners. We just always go into it expecting to just give and never get nothing in return.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you, when I did start to think about reciprocity, I wasn't even asking for compensation. My idea was, at the very least, provide respect.
Mm-hmm.
Provide respect, and I choose to, extend my emotional labor to you. That's what I'm asking for. But even requiring respect as a standard, no.
Yeah, that was too much of an ask because
Yeah.
it's like you should be lucky you're just here.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
respect you. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
So it's like from now on, like any relationship I choose to get into,
Mm-hmm.
boundaries are going to be set. This is what I need you to do. And, from time to time, if you do good and you respect what I say and what I tell you to do, then your reward will be I'll give you time. You need to complain. I'll listen to you. Like, I'll take you here. But you're going to have to earn it. It's not just going to be given to you.
Right.
Because just like being a man, like, you're not given, like, nobody respects you as a man. You have to earn that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why would I give you that and you're not doing anything to earn it?
Yep.
Yeah, so but I appreciate you brothers for, like, just, saying what y'all saying and showing brothers that you have the right to ask for things and you require reciprocity as well. So
Absolutely.
don't take nothing less, and if she can't deal with it, then hey, there's a woman that will. So
Hey,
I
appreciate you.
salute you brothers. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night.
Appreciate you, man.
All right.
Real quick, I want to shout out Salchi, Paul Lowe, Michael Green, MLR, and Jeremiah for the Cash App. Appreciate that support, fellas. Anything either one of you want to say in response to the last to Javon?
I mean, he's doing exactly right, and it's some women are women, especially modern women, say it all the time, right? You have to take back your power, and
Mhm.
men have not been trained to do that. Okay, they have not been trained to take back their power, and you don't. I don't care how much you love somebody, you don't owe them your emotional support. Okay, you
Mhm.
don't owe them that. That's yours. Okay, and you got to take back your power, and that's what he did. So.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Uh,
think I think
go ahead.
now more I think now more than any other time ever that I could remember, men are now asking the question, "What's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
What's
Mm-hmm.
in it for me?" We have been taught, yeah, what's
Yes.
in it for
Yeah.
me?
What's in it for me? Yeah.
We have been taught that what's in it for us is the mere satisfaction of serving. Right
Yes.
Yes.
now, how narcissistic is that?
Right.
Like, always, and I do this with Doc all the time. I always reference Sugar Hill. You already know where I'm going with that, right? But what's in it for me?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I've said it. I've said it before that that's the one thing that we're not allowed to ask. Men and women both will come at you for
Mm-hmm.
asking that question. What's in it for me? And
Mm-hmm.
it's what Javon said. I mean, you got guys who they take a woman's presence and her vagina as full payment for everything that they're doing,
Yes.
and they enable that. They don't, there's never pushback. There's never anything to tell them this is not enough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how are they to know that what they're doing? See, if we have generations of this, it's normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a point where as soon as you start saying what's in it for me, you're initiating kind of like a revolution, and you're an outlier, and there's going to be pushback. That's different.
Right.
That's different. So it's a change, and they're not ready for it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it has to be. I'm for the movements. When I say SYSBM, because we can't tell black men to save each other. We can't tell them to save the community. But the best we can do is tell them to save themselves. And if there's a collective of people who are at least selfish enough, because selfishness, self-interest is should be an inherent human trait. If you appeal to their self-interest, you might get a consensus of movement that says we're going to do this, and then you kind of push a new culture event to happen.
Well, let me just quickly say, as well as read a response that came in from Interlight Radio, but let me quickly say, I have brothers that reach out to me that are in their 50s and 60s, that are six-figure earning, that are nationalists, that are about uplifting the community, but will also tell me about how asking for a glass of water will lead to a 3-hour argument in
Mm-hmm.
relationships.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
This is an unprecedented moment in terms of where men are, because it finally has pushed brothers who are even about community uplift to a point where they can't tolerate any more of it. We also got a comment that came in from Byron Muhammad. from Interlight Radio. He says, one of the issues men, let alone black men, are being confronted with is that there has never been a time in human history where women have thought like men or reflected male aspirations, and many men find themselves puzzled as to how to respond. So shout out to Byron who commented in. And we got more people. Sauchi.
Sauchi.
Sauchi,
How
can
we
you hear
doing?
us?
Good evening. Yeah,
Good
can you hear
evening.
me?
Yeah. Give us
We
your
got
thoughts
you.
It's a
about
pleasure and an
emotional.
honor.
Oh man, good to have you up here.
For me, I guess it's easier to deal with it because my family's from Liberia. So I mean, I was born here, but in the household, it was like it's Liberia. So leadership was with the man. Period. It didn't matter. It wasn't. Abusive, but I saw that growing up. So now as an adult, it's very easy for me to see the dynamics between men and women. I don't argue with women at all
Okay.
because it's illogical, and I'm unapologetic about it. If a woman
Mhm.
doesn't like it for whatever reason, that's her problem. As long as
Mhm.
I'm not being disrespectful, that's a problem. So
Yeah.
to support any females, emotions, yes, as a man, you're the anchor based on the relationship. So if
Mhm.
it's a business, we just doing business. I don't even know anything about your personal life.
Mhm.
Now, if it's an acquaintance, it gets a little bit better. Now, if it's family, a little bit more, but it's still dependent upon the kind of man that they're with. And I'll tell them, what does the guy that you're dealing with say? What is
Mhm.
he doing? And depending on the situation, why are you still there? And I
Mhm.
leave it at that. Now, if it's with a woman I'm, dealing with an intimate relationship, it's pretty much the same deal. It's, I'll sit there and listen for literally no more than 5 minutes, and then
Mhm.
I'll ask them, do you want a solution, or do you just want to talk? And if you just want to talk, that's what your girlfriends are for. I'm not here for that. And
Mhm.
I'm unapologetic about it.
Mhm.
Period. I got shit to do. We got shit to do. We got better things to be doing than to be going through this crap.
Mhm.
So, and of course, a lot of them don't like that. But at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
day, regardless of how the relationship ended or how long it lasted, damn near every single last one of them always came back, whether it was months, years, or even a decade plus later.
Mm-hmm.
And they either apologized or thanked me.
Yeah.
Every single last one of them.
Yeah.
So I think black men should really be unapologetic
Yes.
about it. It's
Mm-hmm.
you, as BGS always says, respect your light.
Mm-hmm.
You
Period.
know what I
Yes, 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 yes.
As far as I'm concerned, okay, my analogy for most people or women is a woman is the flower. Then that means I'm the sun, I'm the
Mm-hmm.
nitrogen, I'm the carbon dioxide, and I'm the water. And
mm,
depending on what you give is
uh-oh.
what I'm going to give and the quality of what I will give. And I leave it at
Mm-hmm.
that. They don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
kick rocks.
Yeah.
Like
Kick
that's my
rocks.
attitude, and they
Yes.
know it when I walk in the room
But
Mm-hmm.
without me saying anything.
what I hear, and I'm not saying this is all you're saying, but what I pull first from what you're saying is that men should be unapologetic about boundaries, whatever they are.
Correct.
And here's the twist to it. When we have business relationships, we can be unapologetic about boundaries, even with certain family members. But for some reason, in intimate relationships, I find that brothers are the whole notion of boundaries becomes a question mark. And you start hearing all kinds of stories of women running all over people. But we can understand boundaries in almost every other type of relationship. There's
Yes.
no reason that one needs to be apologetic for establishing boundaries in any relationship you have and be unapologetic about it. I
Yes.
completely agree.
And be willing to walk away.
Yes.
I think once the man gets to that point where he is literally not afraid to walk away, regardless of how good she looks or how good the sex is, that's
Mm-hmm.
when you have ultimate power. And I'm telling you,
Mm-hmm.
each woman after that looks and gets better. That's my personal experience, and from guys that I'm around. I see it's consistent to me. It's undeniable.
Yeah, yeah. Take your power back. Don't be afraid to
That's
do it.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. All right. Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming up, man.
Thank you.
Let me see. We got Termacat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Termacat. You there?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
can hear
got
you.
you.
What's good?
Yeah, it's
You got any thoughts
a
on that?
pleasure.
Go ahead.
Yes, I just want to jump in a story. So, regarding this emotional support. So I'm heading on a trip about 3 weeks ago to Jamaica. I'm Jamaican, and so one of my aunt calls me and say, "When you're in Jamaica, I need you to help out one of my friends with their internet." So I'm a Cisco certified network architect. So I build $1 million networks for like very important people.
Okay.
So she's like, "You go on your vacation. I want you to go to Jamaica and resolve this internet issue." So I was like, "Okay, if I have the opportunity, I can do that." So when I went there and I talked to her, she's like, "Yeah, I need to have Wi-Fi on like all 3 of my floors. I need to have different channels. I need to have this, that, and that." I'm like, and I said to her, like, "I'm on vacation. I didn't come here to build a network." So I ended up just enjoying my 2 weeks vacation and came back home. My mom called me, cussing me out. My aunt called me, cussing me out. "We're very disappointed in you. Very disappointed in you. I can't believe you went to Jamaica and help out. You're da 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 da." I'm like, Mom, it's like you expect me to provide services for people for free, simply, solely because we're in this community of Black people? And I'm like, and more important, I'm on my vacation, Mom. It's like, so you get the whole idea of me having to prioritize helping out one of the females within the community over my own personal enjoyment. It's like, that's pretty much the extent of my story, Doc. Okay, so
Let me
that emotional support is a real thing.
just out of curiosity, how much would a job like that cost? Just off the top of your head.
I think between $15,000 and $20,000.
Okay.
Depending on how much he wants to do. Like if he wants to secure things and put like a firewall in there, and like when I have access port on all floor, I need to run cables, build conduit, and all kind of things. So it's complicated work. And the whole point I'm referring to is that essentially it's the whole idea of seeing this as like a simple thing. As if like, oh, it's no big deal for me to actually do something like that in the middle of your vacation, and then on top of that, being chastised for not actually doing it. So that's kind of my example of emotional support. That emotional support they require from you. This was more like tech support, but nevertheless, though, the fact that at least I didn't do it and the backlash is what basically I'm like, because my mom is like she's still mad at me.
Well, but part of it too, though, is you were expected to provide these things without reflection, without acknowledgement. It was just an expectation on your vacation, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, yeah, it's like a couple of days before I'm heading on it. I'm like, so it's like, and I try to explain it, like these things you're asking me to do, I would literally need months to sit down and map out your network, buy the equipment, and schedule time to do these things. You're talking about a real project here. It's not just basically the internet where I'm unplugging a modem and restarting it.
Right.
So,
right. Okay.
Let me say this real quick. I find that anytime you have a skill and you're the person in the family with that skill, everywhere you get invited to, they want you to come and supply that skill. I've been invited to several parties and bring your camera.
Right.
Oh yes. Oh yes. Right. Where's your camera? Yeah.
Don't forget to bring your camera. I don't carry camera nowhere no more.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's a photographer's nightmare, especially with family. Okay.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Turn fun into a working party. Yeah.
Like I'm at a bar, working a bar mitzvah or something. You know?
Yeah.
Cameras.
I'm gonna let somebody else come up with a pleasure, gentlemen. BGS. I mentioned earlier you're one of my heroes. Thank you, Doc. I like the fact that you can articulate yourself, Doc. You're one of the few people on YouTube that you don't mince your words and you can express your emotion clear and in a way where it's not ambiguous. You're a good man. Marcus, I'm going to your channel as soon as I'm done. Thank you all.
I appreciate it.
Much appreciated, Cat. Thanks a lot.
I told you, Doc. I told you, Doc.
What?
About you being articulated better than me. Okay, I told you.
We got this. This is the last call. This is Rod trying to come back in.
All
so
right.
On another
third time's the charm, Rod. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. All right. Can y'all hear me clear now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So good deal. All right. So real quick, I had this ex, and she kept complaining about, Rod, you're not emotionally available. You're not emotionally available. And me looking at spec, I looked at the relationship with her mom, her dad, right? Her dad was affectionate to her, but her mom is this cold, ordinary figure. So I felt like she wanted the type of affection she wanted me was that all feminine affection that she gets from her friend girls, and it's something she should have gotten from her mom. And that was really the device of the relationship, really. So like I think we're in a situation where all of these women-led, and this is just my observation, these women-led households, and the men are just there, and they're not operating in masculine energy, and the mom operating in masculine energy, and it's war out of what these young ladies want in relationships. It's like physically they're attracted to men, but they're craving, they have a emotional void for feminine.
Yeah.
I mean, what do y'all think about that?
In other words, this is okay, especially if you have a mom that's masculine or like that. What you have is women that are not have an undeveloped feminine, and they're overly masculine. So they're not really good at being masculine because they're women. Their biology doesn't actually call for that, and then their feminists, which their body does call for, is underdeveloped. So you have a woman that's out of balance, just like a man that's too feminine, right? He doesn't have his masculine up to par where he needs to be for his biology. So he's going to have a guy that's actually out of balance. So what you have is an out of balance woman, and there's no way that you're not a psychologist, you're not a psychiatrist, you're not any kind of therapist, right? Well, she needs a therapist, and basically she did you a favor by leaving. It's not that you weren't emotionally available. She doesn't know how to express herself to actually get what she needs. And she's expecting you to know. A lot of black women expect, a lot of women, period, but especially black women, they expect you to get them. If you don't get them, it's your fault. And because I had to do that with my mother, we had to sit her down and say, hey, look, I'm not going to come in and read what you want. Okay, I'm a man. I can't read what you want. You got to open your mouth and tell me. Okay, you got to explicitly tell me what you want. A lot of women don't want to tell you because they don't want to be obligated. Okay, because once you ask for something, guess what? You're obligated to reciprocate. So women want you to get it and actually offer it for free. That's why. So they don't want to be obligated emotionally. They don't want to be emotionally available to you because she wasn't emotionally available to you because she couldn't be.
Correct. And it's like throughout the relationship, it would be moments where she's like feminine, and it would be moments where she's just cold, like, and when she got cold, I check her, like, why you so cold? And it was cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she was expecting you to fix her. That's like if she was with you. She thought you could fix her and you couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you couldn't. It happens all the time. A lot of women that are out of balance like that, they get with a man because they think that a man can fix her. And and a lot of guys try. A lot of guys really try to fix the women. I said, you can't fix a broken woman. That's not your job.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I think it's coming back in through Marcus's mic. I don't know why, because that hadn't happened all night. But I appreciate you coming up, Rod. I got to fit one more person in.
Thank you, guys.
I always say a woman that's broken you can't fix. Go ahead, Marcus.
No, I was asking, what are you getting feed or something? What are you getting?
It was coming from Rod to you, and I don't know why, but it hasn't happened all night, so I don't know what it is.
It's probably StreamYard. It's probably not
StreamYard. Yeah. But thanks a lot, Rod, and I'm gonna bring one more person up. Just because I'm a supporter of his channel, and I like to hear the brother's voice. How you doing, Artisan?
What's going on, Dr. T? BGS.
Under the wire. I'm looking for Boba Fett, though, man. Part 2.
You gotta go watch Boba Fett.
I haven't gotten past the first episode. Is it worth it?
Oh yeah, it's worth it. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty good. Yeah.
Dr. T, don't be a curmudgeon yet.
Man, you know me. You got to get me early. But give us some thoughts on this.
More.
Give us some thoughts on this emotional labor, man. What's on your mind?
Oh my goodness. So I appreciate you brothers actually bringing this up in this topic. And I'm sorry I would have been on earlier, but I had to do a staff meeting. But emotional labor. This is what the role that I think that a lot of single, or not single men, but a lot of men from single mother-led homes actually fall into. This is the role that I do in damn near every relationship that I'm in. And you, Dr. T, and BGS, you guys know because we've talked, behind the scenes. And I've told you about some of the stuff I went through. Some of the stuff Marcus was talking about, that was Crazy X. That's exactly what Crazy X was. Dealing with her mental issues that she will not get therapy for, and me telling her you need to go get therapy, but she expects the person that she's with to take on all this emotional weight. Even the last one, Asian one, where she doesn't know how to communicate, like you were just saying, Dr. T. She doesn't know how to communicate her emotions. She wants somebody to read her mind. Well, I could read her mind, but I don't want to make that my whole job because I've learned over time it can't be my whole job. That can't be my whole job. You have to actually carry some of this like other adults learn how to carry this stuff.
Right.
So hearing you brothers talk about this, like I'm sure like everybody else in the chat was having major flashbacks of dealing with women or modern women at the very least. And this is the emotional weight that they all try to put on you. Because as I said in the chat, it's because they don't know men and because they don't know that one man that they should know, which is their father. Because they don't know him, they can go from man to man trying to get somebody else to fix this problem or just listen to it for an hour and a half at a time. So Marcus, giving his account of how he kind of subdued the woman in your Facebook stream, I was laughing. I was like, I've done that. It's like he disarmed her. He gave her the 8 Mile. I was like, it's funny when it happens, but they weren't looking for it. They're looking for the fight, and he came with the water instead of the gasoline. And they're like, oh, wait a minute, you understand me?
You get me. Yeah, you get me.
Yeah, you get me.
There's times I've done that. Yeah, there's I've done that where it doesn't work. I mean, sometimes, you imagine. I mean, I don't think there's any secret formula, right? Like is more likely than the other way, right? But it's trial, man. I've been dealing with women and they nonsense and they their personality so long, like it get to a point where it's like it's what BGS said earlier, like you figure women out, and that kind of gives you a kind of a guide, a guide into how to deal with personally. It tell you everything that they want you to mind read, but it gives you somewhat of a direction to go in, and I've done that, and sometimes you're wrong, and sometimes it doesn't work, but it's more likely to work. Because I mean, I don't want to sell guys this idea that you do it this way it's going to work, because that would be the if men do X, women will do Y fallacy. That's what I call it. But I in that instance, I figured you know what, I'm in mood, so let me try it and see what happens. And then she responded the way she responded, and it was entertaining us.
Yeah, see, you giving that Sith grin like I would give somebody, because the last women I dealt with in my 30s, it always seemed like it was kind of entertaining to do that with women because they weren't used to that. They weren't used to having somebody be able to read them in that sense and actually calm them down. As I got older, I got tired of doing that shit. Right. So with the last person I was with, didn't have a term for it, but I told her, she says, well, I'm tired of feeling like I'm doing everything. And I told her, you're not doing everything. This is me doing almost everything right now, listening to you with this anger and not responding to you in the same way. This is doing the work in a relationship. She didn't get that part. She thought that, you're just supposed to be here listening to all this stuff. I'm like, no, this is what a man brings to the table. In some senses, he can listen to this without going off on you, because he wouldn't have this long of a conversation with another man. It would just be a fight, and that'd be the end of it. So me sitting here being able to calmly talk to you, and like Marcus was saying, you trying to, do the Neji move and dodge 1,000 daggers coming at you all at the same time while controlling your anger and your breathing, and still trying to, give her a little bit of a feel like you care about what is going on with her. Let me get that what's really got you throwing all these daggers at me. It takes some women a year or more to get to that point of understanding. You were right back then. Yeah, no. Because they don't do that kind of work.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah, they don't. So it's that's almost a form of victim blaming. It's like when you tell men who are physically attacked by women how they should retaliate, and then retaliate a certain way, then they're the abuser now.
Right.
Exactly the point. Exactly. It is victim blaming, because it's not, for me, it's not them taking responsibility. And what I usually do, and I get into the most conflict with, is holding them accountable for their actions and their behavior, which is something they never want to do. And being the person to stand there and say, look, pretty or not, what you did was wrong. I'm going to hold you accountable for what you did as being wrong. You're going to have to own that. They never want to hold it. It's like, no, you made me do it. It's like, I don't make you do anything. You're grown, right?
Right. Right.
Because if I can make you do anything, I make you shut the fuck up. But that's not what's happening. So let's understand that you have some control over this. They want somebody to, and sometimes manage, and sometimes just listen and act like you're the girlfriend. And that, like Marcus was saying, you go the other way. Well, he's too soft. He's trying to be too friendly with you. It's like you can't win from losing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any responses? BGS, what you think?
What he said about coming from a single mother household, even though I didn't come from a single mother household, I know what he's talking about. You learn to be emotionally available, and learn to actually control a woman's emotions, and that makes you attractive to a certain kind of women that that's never had it, and that makes you desirable. But the thing is, it's actually a burden upon you. Because they said, well, he gets me because he understands me, but they don't realize that there's a cost to it. That's why it's up to men to actually take their power back and say, hey, this doesn't come for free. You got to give me more than just sex. So
right, and that's all like what Dr. C said. He understood that he could pull that back, and when he pulled it back is when he got the most static.
I think that they might be attracted to engaging with you, but I mean, the guy who is emotionally available for women is not always the guy that's smashing.
Very true.
The guy that they what did you say, emotional tamper, right?
Yeah.
Right. You become that guy.
The moist talent.
That guy. All right.
Yeah, you can.
I just don't want that to be confused.
If you don't, if I tell a guy, if you the easiest way to get out of friend zone is pull your power back.
Okay. Yeah, to deny it. See, when
to deny it.
To tell you another Jew for this more game. Like I said, my game package is coming up soon. Hey, you take a chin and all that stuff away. When you attention is oxygen to it. Oxygen.
Thank you. Say that for the people in the cheap seats.
All right. Oxygen. O2. Attention. That's what they want, and they can't get that. Especially if you the guy they like. Get them doing backflips, man. You give them attention. It's like you guys who readily give attention to women is like sex. Pardon me. Women who, you already know what I'm saying. Women who readily give sex to men. You know, you're the male horse.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
You give your attention away for free, and your emotional, you know, labor away for free. That's
Yes.
why women don't. It's the same way how they say. I mean, men don't respect women who give vagina away like d'oeuvres. Give your emotional labor and your attention away like hors d'oeuvres. You are a male whore to them.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right. If you think about it, think about the female fantasy. Who's the dude that they always attracted to in the club? The one who's paying them no attention. That's the first thing they go towards. Like, why is he ignoring me? All the rest of these dudes is simping. Why is he not paying attention to me? They will make their way over to you. I think Rom calls it beta game or something like that. It's basically what it is.
Yeah, beta game is tricky to actually run. It's not the easiest thing. It's one of the hardest thing to run is beta game.
Yeah, I've been around enough females, and I've run all types of experiments, and I know which ones will work, or which ones are more likely to work. Right? Are you getting noise, Doc? For me?
Yeah, I'm getting. I don't know where it's coming from, but your signal is going in and out though.
Yeah, so you run. I run all types of different social experiments on females, man, in the interaction, man. You know, when you have the access, you can do that, and which ones over and which ones won't. They're the same guy. It's not you got taller or shorter or more muscular or this or that. No, you're the same guy, and you're doing all these things, man, and you find out what works, man. Different females, different situations, man. That's one of those things that remains constant. Attention.
I like CBGS, the size of the Sith. Look, Jedi in the streets, Sith in the sheets. I'm just saying. There's a reason. See, I'm sitting here grinning because he's talking about running experiments, and I'm like, yes, that's what I do.
Yeah. Like, let me do this, see what's gonna happen.
Yeah, just to see like what's going on with her. Let's see what's going on.
Yeah. Beta game is hardest to run, but it's most devastating if it's done right, because you have to pretend like you're beta, but you have to have really strong masculine frame on the other side when you get ready to actually pull the rug from underneath her. Weave her in because that's when they. Yeah. It also can get your car wrecked too, so you got to be careful about running.
Can't get your car fucked. But that's usually when they take that RCA dog look at you. Like, what the minute?
Yeah.
Like they don't understand it. They can't pull that back. They can't match it up in their head that the man can actually have these two damn dimensions at the same time.
Yeah. You can't pull it off.
Nice 1 minute and completely solid on what he said next, and they don't understand why they they feel like respond to it. And they'll try to buck again.
Yeah, beta game runs better on good-looking, what do you call them? Women that like to take advantage of guys. What do they call them? Predatory. Okay,
predatory.
If you find a predatory woman, and she likes to take advantage of guys, that's when you run beta game, because you're actually weaving her. Thinking that she can take advantage of you, you're flipping the script, and that's pretty devastating. But the thing is that woman like that, once you flip the script, okay, you got to be careful of hiding your car, because if it goes wrong, guess what? She's gonna be an emotional wreck. She's gonna come after you.
That's that garage game, huh? But look, fellas, I appreciate all you coming up. Thanks a lot, Artisan, for coming in. And I most particularly appreciate Marcus and BGS for coming up in here and co-hosting. So thank you. And check out Artisan's show Sunday. What you dealing with this Sunday, man, before you check out?
Well, I was going to say Boba Fett if you would actually watch the freaking show. I mean, god dang. What I got to do?
I got to catch up.
What I got to do?
All right. I'll watch Boba Fett. I'll watch Boba Fett.
He said grudgingly.
I'm not in the mood to be disappointed. That's all. I got to work.
It's surprisingly good. It's
All right.
surprisingly. I didn't expect much out of it, but it's actually surprisingly pretty well done. Almost on the par with the Mandalorian.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's kind of giving me that energy. And that's why I want to check it out. I
Mhm.
haven't been disappointed in anything that Disney has put on stream as opposed to their movies.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
You know,
right. Thank you, John and Dave.
yeah.
What time Sunday, man? Tell them what they need to do to get to you.
Oh, thank you. I didn't look for that. But Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and it'll be Boba Fett and something else that's coming out this week. Oh, I finished watching Cobra Kai.
Have you watched Don't Look Up?
I have.
I haven't watched Don't Look Up yet.
You gotta watch Don't Look Up.
That's on the list to watch.
I watched Don't Look
That's
Up,
on the list because I saw a trailer for it. Looks funny.
and we definitely need to talk about Cobra Kai. Interesting as hell. Very interesting.
Yeah, you need to jump on that.
Last thing though, anything about the store? You want to mention anything?
Store Venmo will be set up tonight. We have a new email address at the store, so if you want to actually email the shop, put your orders in and whatnot, it's Stand Up Comics, one word, 21, Stand Up Comics 21 at Gmail. So that's up. That was part of the staff meeting that I was having while you was running this. Having a staff meeting with my crew at the store, giving them the mission. So most of that stuff will be finished getting all switched over this week. So we'll be up and running for ordering online. So as soon as I get y'all the little spot,
okay,
it'll be done.
All right,
it'll be done.
Much appreciated. We'll see you Sunday, Artisan. Peace to you.
All right, appreciate you.
Peace.
Peace.
And fellas, again, I appreciate y'all being up here. Any closing thoughts before we transition out?
My just closing thought, man. I've been saying this, man, since I came on to YouTube, man. Basically, value your light and attention, and take your power back, man. Don't just give your power away for free. Okay, get something back. If you're not gonna get something back, really be very careful about who you give it to. Like Doc says it in his closing all the time about how much of your power you actually give away. Yeah, for free, and that you shouldn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Marcus, anything you want to close out on?
BGS said a couple of things that I was gonna say, but I'll say this. When it comes to like when men say, what do you bring to the table? Because that's the thing. It sounds like what do I get out of the deal, right? What do I get? So when men ask, what do women bring to the table, that could mean anything you want it to mean. It could mean anything you want it to mean, but demand it.
Yeah.
Demand it. Your presence is a present. You're being demanded of all these things. And your reciprocation is not the feeling that you derive from doing it. Whatever it is that you want, it doesn't matter. Every is subjective. Everybody has a different demand or different needs and wants in a relationship or in any relationship, in any rapport or exchange. So whatever that means, what do you bring to the table? Because the first people think about is money. When men ask, what do you bring to the table? Is like you asking women for their money or their assistance. Most men are living pretty fine by themselves. They're paying their own rent and bills and this and that and the other. So it's not that they want women's assistance. What are you bringing with your presence for everything that you're asking me for? What do I get back? And it could be anything you want. It could, if you wanted to just be vagina, that's cool. It wouldn't be that for me, but whatever it is that you want. If you want to be unbothered while you play Fortnite, then that's what you want, and you should be able to have that for everything that you bring to the table. One more thing. What's his name? DJ Khaled famously said, I will pay all the bills, but I ain't going down. Right? Right? That's what he wants. That's what he wants.
That's what he wants. Yeah.
I can't tell that man he wrong. He paying all the bills. But
Mhm.
everything that he's bringing, he's saying, I ain't going down on you.
Mhm.
Now, look,
Fair,
she
fair enough.
can live in Khaled house, or she can move back to the hood and receive fellatio.
Mhm.
He said receive.
And be broke. Hey, look, I'm trying to keep it clean, man. It's I care about your analytics. I don't care about mine. But, you know, she can live in the hood, in the projects, and get fellatio, or you can live here, right?
Mhm.
In this decadence, right?
Mhm.
This ambiance, right? Okay, this is what I want. Get what you want, no matter what it is from the relationship. Demand it and be unapologetic about it. And that's all I got to say.
That's what's up.
Mhm.
I appreciate both of y'all, man.
No
Y'all
doubt.
have a good one.
All right.
All right, man. Peace.
Follow my channel.
Peace.
There's more shit like that for you. You know what I'm saying?
All right, man.
All
I'm
right,
gonna
man.
pull you guys out, but thanks a lot, brothers.
All right, no doubt. Peace.
All right.
Peace. Well, here's the thing. Support Keep It 100's channel. He spells it a little different. So if you scroll back in this video, I left the banner on the screen for a reason. You can go to his channel, subscribe from there. Also, make sure you support BGS more, because YouTube is definitely playing with people's numbers. There's no way in the world that brother shouldn't be well beyond 40,000 subscribers, but they keep messing with his numbers. So make sure you support the channel there as well. Last thing I'll put up is some of my basic solutions for what I call ignored MREL, right? Men's relationship, emotional labor, right? Men's relationship emotional labor, and for particularly the ignored aspect of it. Basically what Marcus, BGS, and Artisan laid out in a nutshell, right? Learn to value the role you play. Whether it's being an anchor for her, a reservoir for her downloading or advising, recognize the value of it first and foremost. Make sure that it's compensated with something. At the very least, what should be standard is respect. But whatever else you demand, be unapologetic about it, be clear, be upfront, and be prepared to walk away if it's not provided. Straight up. Last, be unapologetic about those boundaries in general, whatever they are. And or we shouldn't say last, but second to last. And last, men will choose who to provide it for, but reserve the right to refuse service. In other words, you can determine who you want to provide that emotional labor for, and if you don't want to provide it, you can reserve the right to refuse service. But these are things as basic as they sound. Many men have not been told. If anything, it was just a resource that many of us have been socialized to provide without reflecting on its value whatsoever. And that worked in the interests of many a woman, because it meant that she got something for free that she valued almost more than anything else without even having to publicly acknowledge it. And most men got judged on whether or not they provided it and provided it well, even though it was never a topic of conversation and it's never been clearly outlined. Since the 1980s, we've heard you need to make six figures, you got to have six-pack abs, you got to be over 6 feet tall, you need to own a home, you need to own a car, you need to be able to do this and do that. Nobody ever said anything about how you need to be able to handle her emotions or recenter her, remove her, or whatever you got to do to situate her in a way that feels right. And yet, I would argue that's probably the number one thing that is valued from men and never said aloud. So make sure that you value those resources. Make sure that you get what you need in exchange for them. Make sure that you provide boundaries unapologetically and be prepared to walk if they're not honored. And make sure at the end of the day, you remember to reserve the right to refuse service. Straight up. Some of those overlap, but there's a reason I did that, because it needs to be stated repeatedly. Anyway, as far as that's concerned, I appreciate y'all. Thanks for supporting the Onyx Report. Please make sure you subscribe, join, donate, shared. Shout out to Ignorance Mouse. Appreciate that. Make sure you do all of that, and I will catch you guys soon. Peace.